killing all your dreams. Eyes wide open now, truth you can't disavow. Echoes through the halls, crashing all your walls. Truth seekers, exposing the truth. Truth seekers, coming for you. Uncover the lies, open your eyes. Shadows try to hide, no place for them to bide. Light will pierce you through, reveal what is true. Running from your fears, can't escape the sears. Truth will hunt you down, tear apart your crown. Truth seekers, exposing the truth. Truth seekers, coming for you. Uncover the lies, open your eyes. Eyes wide open now, truth you can't disavow. Echoes through the halls, crashing all your walls. Truth seekers, exposing the truth. Truth seekers, coming for you. Uncover the lies, open your eyes.
Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. If you're new to our channel, tonight it's time for you to take your second red pill. I know a lot of you people think that you've taken the red pill and you know the truth about what the government is really hiding. And I always say this, there is a UFO cover-up, but what a lot of people do not realize or know or recognize is that the real cover-up is that there are garbage peddling scumbags in the UFO community that will do literally anything to sell a story. Chief among them is certain to be some subject of tonight's conversation, and that would be one Ross Coulthart, who once accused a bunch of innocent men, completely innocent men with wives and families, of being child predators so that he could sell an over-sensationalized, almost evidence-less story. The story turned out to be completely and totally false, and that, my friends, was the beginning of his fall from a real journalist into a clickbait merchant garbage peddling scumbag. And let's be clear, that's what he is. We have detailed here in a 10-hour video not even all, just some of his history of clickbait, over-sensationalizing, over-promising, under-delivering, and just straight lying through his teeth to sell an often completely and totally fake story. Or let's not forget that one of the principal promoters of the Dave Grush story, by the way, it's been over 500 days now, still not a shred of evidence of his stories, was Ross Coulthart. And today, Ross Coulthart brought us another of his over-sensationalized stories. And we already know that he lied to sell that story, or at least did the lie by omission. He led everybody to believe that this so-called new whistleblower, by the way, that's a term that doesn't really exist. They're not whistleblowers. These people are storytellers because none of them have any real evidence. This time was supposed to be different because this guy was going to show us a video of him recovering an alien crash retrieval. But it turns out when we see the piece that the video that they showed us was not from that so-called whistleblower. It was from another anonymous source from a completely unrelated event. But I guess it's similar because it's an egg-shaped craft. But the entire story came crashing down and debunked. It's not aliens. Sorry, not sorry. So it's time to take your second red pill tonight on Truth Seekers. And I've assembled a great panel of guests, and we're going to be getting into all of this. And I'm glad for this panel of guests because if you saw last night's broadcast, I have some kind of death, cold, flu thing. I might have strep throat. I'm going to have a test for it on Monday. I can't get to the doctor. In the meantime, my voice is slowly leaving me. So I decided tonight we want to have some guests to fill in some of the time. And I'm just going to try to moderate. People know my thoughts, especially on Ross Coulthart. And I'm here to tell you, if somebody can compile a 10-hour video detailing and proving without a shadow of a doubt many of your previous stories were all completely over sensationalized clickbait garbage and fake, then maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't trust him when he comes up with a new over sensationalized story. And I warned everybody. We even did a public service rebroadcasting that 10-hour deep dive into his previous fake stories yesterday, or I'm sorry, the day before yesterday. And I told everybody to temper their expectations. You know how many people told me, oh, you'll be eating crow. This whistleblower has evidence. He's going to show us a video. That all turned out to be false. They led us to believe that he would have a video, but the video wasn't from him. And then the story gets crazy. We get into psionic superpowers. It's all so ridiculous. So we're going to be bringing in our guests. We're going to get right into the meat of things. But before we do, I want to welcome in our live chat. I also want to apologize because we have a goal here every night for our public funding. We're a viewer-supported show, and this keeps us honest. We're funded by viewers. So usually we have an overtime goal, and yesterday I promised that we would do an overtime, and my voice was completely gone by the end of the show. And I've really it just totally slipped my mind. There was just a quick thing we were going to throw in as a bonus. I'll do it at the end of tonight's broadcast. Corey Good's lawyer has gotten a restraining order filed against her, meaning that she could probably no longer represent him in any of the pending cases. We want to thank some kind and generous people. Before we even begin, they're starting. Detective gifted 5 True Seekers memberships, which is why you should hit that subscribe button. Because if you're not aware, if you're in the live chat and not a subscriber and a kind and generous person like Detective gifts memberships, you're not eligible to get them. But if you're subscribed but not yet a member here, these gifted memberships get randomly distributed to people in the live chat that are subscribers. Liz G got one. Yoshi got one. M. Namst got one. Zeta Contributions got one. Rotary Motion got a free one. All thanks to the kindness and generosity of Detective. Thank you. Stormcrow with a kind and generous $2 for the goal. Thank you. And another one from Stormcrow for $5 says wrong color. And Zero just became a member. If you become a YouTube channel member during a live broadcast, we shout you out. And Mezel with a kind and generous $4.99 towards the goal. And friends, that'll cover who I need to thank you, kind and generous people. And I understand people want the super chats read, but I always feel as if when we have a bunch of guests here, it's kind of disrespectful to all the guests to interrupt them while they're talking to praise the cash. So from this point forward, we love and appreciate all of you people. We've got the goal. You see it in the live chat. We're going to try to hit it. We'll do some overtime tonight. But we're going to read the super chats after we're finished with our discussion with the guests. I see Alien Scientist in the live chat saying praise the cash. All right, we'll do one more. RP, man, another stream. I still haven't even caught up from last night. Lots to listen to now. Yes, and thank you for your kindness. That's one for the goal. So let's get into it, friends. The subject of tonight's broadcast is all of these UFO celebrities cashing in on so-called UFO whistleblowers. And I always say this, they're not whistleblowers if they don't have real substantial amount of evidence to share with their so-called whistleblowing. If all they're going to do is tell stories and generate tons of monetized views for the people promoting them, they're not whistleblowers, friends. They're storytellers. So let's get into it. Joining us first, we have Grider. Welcome, Grider. And he's not there. Boy, we've got a professional panel tonight. We're going to bring in Sky Anomalies then first. Welcome, Sky Anomalies. Oh,
I'm here, but can you hear Grider?
yeah, I couldn't hear him when we brought him in. Let's bring him in. Hello, Grider.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having
Yeah, are you having a tech issue still? Or are you okay? Are you good to go, Grider?
Am I? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. I think you're fine. Okay. And I'm gonna ask each of you, starting with Grider, to just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the subject for the benefit of people who may not know you. Starting with you there, Grider?
Yeah, so I got into the subject. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Maybe I'm having some connection issues. I don't know. Yeah, so I got into the subject for to assert my intellectual superiority and to debunk videos of orbs, make myself feel better. Because in every other aspect of my life, I'm a giant failure. So I come here to feel better about myself, boost that ego. Thank you,
Are you
Stephen.
are you being funny? This is just what some of the critics say about you, right? The trolls. Grider does great
Oh, I didn't know they said that
research.
about me.
Yeah, Grider does, for those unaware, I'll toot his horn for him. Grider does great sort of deep dive research. And one of the reasons I like Grider is because, unlike most of the people in this thing, Grider does not ignore the history and actually researches the history. And on to you, Sky Anomalies. Please tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into the subject.
Hey, happy to be here. I am a licensed clinical social worker, so I'm a therapist. I work in mental health. I've worked in the prison system for 5 years. I got into the subject, I think, when I was in my early 20s. I love sci-fi, and I've always been into the UFO topic and skepticism. I wasn't really super deep into it though until 2017 New York Times article. That's when I actually, for the first time ever, started to believe that there was actually possibly something there. And then the David Grush stuff just kind of almost sucked me down the rabbit hole. And
They almost got you.
they almost got me, and that's why I'm really interested in this, is because I think if it could almost get someone like me, who I consider myself fairly rational, then it can get anyone. And so I'm fascinated in that aspect of it, and also the psychology of certain things like the abduction phenomena, and also why people just believe weird things in general.
Spoken like a true psychologist. And Manny kind of needs no introduction. Most of my audience knows Manny is the author, the infamous author of the Who's Lou, and was an early sort of whistleblower. Will pardon the pun. That some of these people that are UFO celebrities aren't who they pretend to be. But Manny, tell us a little bit about how you got into this and what your focus is here, and then we'll start on the rest of the conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. Thanks for having me on tonight. It's been a while since I've been on.
Absolutely, Mr.
Yeah,
Debunk. For those unaware, I said that this thing would be debunked in 24 hours. Manny is the first person to identify the so called alien egg as most likely a blimp, an aerogel surveillance. But we'll get into that. Go ahead, Manny. I'm sorry.
yeah, no worries. Yeah, so I've always been a sci-fi buff since I was a kid. Science fiction, into X Files, Star Trek, Star Wars, Stargate, anything with the word "star" in it, and I'm pretty much going to be, a big fan. That's all you got to do to get me on board. And that leads itself like to growing up on the internet and going into, obscure news groups and looking up, UFO footage and files and things like that, and supposed leaks and things like that. So I've been around this topic, as a hobby for a long time, but it wasn't up until probably a decade or so ago that I got really kind of serious with it. Trying to research things, and I just found that there was a lot of channels on YouTube and things like that that would research obscure esoteric subjects, but they would just kind of hit them on the topical level and not really deep dive to a level that I felt was that I wanted to have access to the information of. So I would go and I'd watch a video on I don't know, something like, let's say, Jeanette Island, which is one of the first videos I did was on Jeanette Island. I wanted to know what the backstory of Jeanette Island was, and the YouTube videos really didn't have it, so I would do my own research, and then I would, kind of fulfill my curiosity and then just move on to the next subject. And after a while, I realized I was just kind of not really doing anything with that information, and I wanted to make videos about it to share that information with other people. So I started making videos and sharing my research, and that's kind of what got me into doing things like, which led me up to Who's Lou eventually, because I did all this research on Lou Elizondo and I wanted to share it with people because there was a lot of misinformation about the guy. And a lot of what I found was shocking and people didn't know about. And I felt that they really did need to know about. So I'm glad that I did and got it out there. And that's what kind of led me to where I am today.
All right, I don't even know where to begin after this then. So we've got Jeremy Corbell. I think we could go over his latest offerings pretty quickly. He's claiming he's going to cash in on a new UFO whistleblower. But most of his docu-series so far, has it been 1 or is it 2 hours now of him complaining and having a temper tantrum like a little bitch? That there, for those unaware, there was a worthless document submitted to the congressional record about Immaculate Constellation, but several sources have already come forward and said there is no project called that, and this is basically a work of fiction. But he's pissed off that when they put in the congressional record, Nancy Mace said that it was put in by Schellenberger. So he made like an hour documentary about him being pissed off that they lied or something, and he didn't get the credit for the fake document or the worthless document. Am I wrong here? Anybody chime in?
That's a great summary of what happened.
That's pretty much it so far. We didn't get to the whistleblower yet. We're too busy listening to
Yeah.
him cry like a bitch.
Yeah, he has been crying, and he's gone so far as to call Nancy Mace a straight up liar and attack her personally. And and all that I keep seeing when I see that is Jeremy Corbell crying that he's not getting the credit that he feels he deserves. He's like, me, 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 me. I should get this credit. I should get this credit. Like, it really shouldn't matter. Like if the document is legit, which I think we all know it isn't. It just reeks like a repackaged form of Dave Grush's op-ed to me. And then Jeremy Corbell put his name on it and tried to kick it over to Mace and wanted it read into the congressional record, kind of like the Davis Wilson memo was, and wanted to get like some kind of, attaboy slap on the back. And he's upset that he didn't, and
Yeah, but isn't it ridiculous
bad.
that he's upset that he didn't get credit for a completely worthless document that's like mentioning secret projects that don't exist?
Yeah, yeah,
And by
it
the
is.
way, I have some intelligence sources besides the public ones that have come out and said there's no such project, that told me there's no such project. And other people I've talked to have said the same thing. So it's like, who cares about this document that some wackadoo wrote? It's an anonymous sourced document. So it's basically worthless because it's already been proven that that program doesn't exist. So who cares? But literally, friends, an hour long of him crying and complaining. And what is it, on Tubi or something? It's so stupid. I didn't know it was that easy to get a Tubi deal. You just got to cry and you get a deal, right?
Yeah, and I think it was produced by TMZ. So you got Harvey Levin there, the same guys who did the first one that he was a part of as well.
Which was a nothing burger, yeah, and filled with
Right.
fake UFOs
Yeah.
and nonsense.
And then going back, if you remember, Harvey Levin was one of the people who interviewed Lou Elizondo back when Lou was in jeopardy of being prosecuted for leaking videos from the Pentagon. Harvey Levin was one of the first mainstream people that had Lou on to, get his bullshit story out onto the record, and let him give him a platform to talk about how they were retaliating against him and things like that. So whatever the connection is there, Harvey's been around for a while, and I'm not surprised that they're still getting in on this. They do clickbait journalism.
Yeah, and then UFOs fits right in, right? And
Oh, yeah.
and Grider, what did you think of Jeremy Corbell's docu series so far? We could get through this one quick, I think.
Oh, I think Sensei Corbell is a very honorable person. I think he's got a lot of integrity and morals. And I mean, look what he did with the 29 Palms. I mean, only somebody with some grit and some character could turn that 29 Palms thing into the sensation that it was. I mean, did you hear it? I mean, it was a triangular craft out there that they had, not infrared flares, being
For
deployed
for those
by,
unaware,
one of the
Grider busted Jeremy Corbell out the wazoo, and even talked to some of the original witnesses to the event that said, no, it was flares. We told them it was flares, or found the guy who said it was flares. So Grider's being sarcastic as usual, but you busted him so
what was
bad
especially
on that.
noteworthy about what was especially that I'm kind of proud that like I was able to prove is that Corbell was not only telling the public, hey, I got a tip from high level military sources, right? He was telling the Marine the exact same thing. So he was telling this young Marine witness, hey, man, your higher ups, they don't even know what it is. So how could you know what it is, right?
Wow.
And like he was doubting himself. Meanwhile, the public is thinking it's like this appeal to authority grift that he has going on where he's telling he's using this idea of having a high level insider source to like fool everybody into like changing their story or into believing and going along with whatever he says. He's a very he's a lot smarter than he looks. I'll give him that.
Very manipulative, though, to convince one person of a story and say, "Hey, look, this other guy above you corroborated the story," and then to go back to somebody else then and say, "Hey, look, this
Yeah.
other guy
So
underneath you
basically,
corroborated the
yeah,
story."
he
You know,
basically had to
like,
talk this kid out of thinking it was flares so that he could sell it as something more than flares, and he was
And
successful in doing that. He's very
meanwhile,
manipulative.
how did he how did he find this kid? How did he find out about the story? He found out about it on Facebook. Like, he found this kid's post on Facebook. He
And then he
didn't get a
said it was a
tip
military
about
source.
29
Yeah.
Palms. Yeah, there was no tip. I mean, it was like a 7 hour period overnight between like 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. the next morning, where like he had sent this kid a DM, and like found it. So it's just the guy's just a bullshitter,
Yeah, and of course,
par for the course around here when it
everybody
comes to
knows
grifters.
everybody knows that he grifted off of Bob Lazar, who, for those that are unaware, Bob Lazar is a convicted pimp fake scientist that Jeremy pretended was a former government scientist. And it's interesting that that story comes crashing down so quickly. People were able to get to Bob's former, like bosses at Los Alamos, who all confirmed he was never a physicist. He was a low-level technician, and of course, he got arrested and convicted for running a whorehouse. This is not a credible source of information, but Jeremy cashed in. He's probably made millions off of the Lazar story. That's completely and totally fake, provably fake.
What's your verdict on Knapp? Stephen, Manny,
Well,
Kraft?
here I could give my quick verdict on that. On that, I kind of was like, oh, he's a grifting scumbag, and then I don't know why, but for some reason, from years and years back, he's a friend of mine on Facebook. And I saw some post of his super hot smoking young wife, and so I give him a pass because he's got a super hot young wife. She's a smoke show. She's gonna want money. Like, look at him, dude. Like, that's his only hope of keeping that super hot smoke show young wife happy. So he's got a grift. So I kind of let it go. He's entertaining though. I love his, the dog man at Skinwalker Ranch, and the wolves and the dogs smoking cigarettes stories. They're so stupid. And what about you, Sky Anomalies? Are you familiar with George Knapp and his grifting?
Yeah, although I think he's a true believer. I don't think he's deliberately lying. I think he generally believes the stuff he peddles. I don't think he has been doing this for 20 plus, 30 plus years, deliberately knowing it's all false. I think he generally believes a lot of it, if not most of it.
Yeah, and people don't realize this, but back in the day, he did his fair share of grifter busting of some of the people in the UFO community. But looking at it now, I kind of feel like that was in his own best interests. Like, I feel like he was kind of removing the competition from the field. Like, he went after Bill Cooper for being a fraud. And there's ample evidence that he was a fraud and he was repeating stories and stealing stories from people and claiming them as his own. But it felt like self preservation. Like, there was only so much money in the UFO community. So he had to get rid of the people that were competing with him and John Lear, you know?
Yeah, I guess it's always important, at least for me, to try to delineate between the people who peddle this stuff because they have such poor standards of reasoning and evidence that they fall for it themselves versus the people who deliberately know that they're telling a falsehood for the sake of monetary or other kinds of gain. And I think he falls in the first camp.
He's like a true, yeah. I find I do the same thing. Like Linda Moulton House, she just truly believes this stuff. I don't think she's purposefully putting together fake stories, but she's just too credulous. Like, anybody that comes to her with a story, she's just like, wow, aliens, let's run with it, you know. But I don't think she's maliciously and manipulatively putting together stories. She just believes what people tell her, and it fits with her sort of worldview, right? And Sky Anomalies, could you talk a little bit about the believer brain syndrome and like how people ignore the history of these people just because they really want to believe this stuff? Because you have a background in psychology, right?
Yeah, so it's not so much the believer brain syndrome because all of the things that they fall prey to are things that are universally we are all susceptible to. All the same biases that they fall for, we ourselves have to always be on the lookout for it. So confirmation bias, all of dismissing evidence that contradicts your own worldview. We all do it to different degrees. So, like for example, you were talking about Coulthart and his history of just bullshit throughout the years,
I think
and
it's intentional with him. I think he knows it's fake and he's still pushing it
yeah,
because
I'm
it's
in,
money.
yeah, there's money. I'm in the fence about him. But in terms of why people ignore it, number one, there's many people who just don't do dive into the history, obviously. So those people just are not aware of it. Then there's another group of people who do know that he has proven false stories in the past, but their way of reasoning is to explain it away as well. That story turned out to be false, but look at this one. There's always this kind of shifting of goalposts where even if you refute one, there's an endless supply of new cases that they can point to that are unsolved. And then three, there's something that happens whenever we look at evidence that contradicts our worldviews. Our amygdala gets turned on, which means that our physical bodies turn on, feel like we are in danger. Our fight or flight system turns on. And when we feel threatened when we're looking at contradictory evidence, our prefrontal cortex is disabled offline, or less active. So we start engaging in more emotional reasoning because the part of the brain that is activated typically is going to prioritize emotional comfort over logical consistency. So we will go with what feels more comfortable to us, and usually it's retaining our worldview. So a lot of the times when people see stuff that they know contradicts their worldviews, instead of really engaging and grappling with it, essentially they will tune out because to them it's perceived as a psychological or physical threat of some sort. So, but again, this is not just believers that have to be on the lookout for this. We ourselves have to, because there's a danger in thinking that this is only a phenomenon that believers experience. And when we start thinking that, then that makes it easier for us to fall for it ourselves.
Well, that makes me feel a little better then. People aren't ignoring me out of maliciousness. It's actually part of neurology, then, right? Like they're not ignoring these histories that I put out. It's just
Yes.
uncomfortable for them and they'd rather stay in their bubble, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, I can definitely immediately think of scenarios in which I have deliberately set out to read something from an opposing viewpoint, just so I can kind of maintain a healthy balance of news sources. And immediately when I read something like National Review, like a famous conservative outlet, I notice in myself a desire to just kind of click out of it because there's a dissonance there, a cognitive dissonance that is very uncomfortable, and you have to fight through it so that you can actually get that well balanced diet of news stories from different perspectives. And I think if people kind of think back on times that's happened to them, we could all probably find situations where we remember reading something that contradicted a belief that we held, and it felt very uncomfortable, and we all react to it in very different ways. But yeah, it's not maliciousness. A lot of times it really is a neurological discomfort, and the brain seeks to maintain balance and harmony. And the way it does that is by trying to tune it out or explain it away somehow.
I'm sorry, you'll have to excuse me. If anybody hears any dead air when I'm supposed to be speaking, it's because I keep having to mute myself because I don't want to be coughing all over the guests and you, the audience here. So uh, let's get to this Ross Coulthart thing, and we'll go round robin here. We'll start with Manny. I had incredibly low expectations, and I was warning everybody that everybody should have incredibly low expectations when you have this guy who, Ross Coulthart was literally willing to label a bunch of innocent men child predators to sell a sensational story and benefit his career, which pretty much ended his career at 60 Minutes because it was completely fake story. And then we've got he once claimed that they had conclusive proof of alien technology. That turned out to be a fake story. There was the Patchgate story. So I wasn't expecting him to have a real story this time, but a lot of people were. Manny, what did you think of the whole thing?
I think it was kind of par for the course for what we've come to expect out of Ross, which is over sensationalized promises and under deliverance of those promises. There's a lot of similarities if you go back to what you were talking about to the Spies and Lords debacle. He hyped that up the same way and said that this was going to be earth shaking, this was going to be paradigm changing, it was going to change the world, and it turned out to basically be a bunch of nothing based on stories of one or two people that were
He said it
uncooperative.
would be the biggest political story in England's history. That's what he said.
Yeah, and it ended up only costing him his job, unfortunately for him. Which they probably should have. The way that you don't make claims like that and blow things up like that. Outside of the UFO community, there's repercussions for doing things like that. Clearly, in the UFO community, fool me once, you're invited to fool me again another dozen times. Like he's, yeah, he
There's
can just
never any
he's getting attacked.
consequences. You're right. There's never
There
any
isn't.
consequences.
There isn't. Nobody should be trusting anything that he has to say at face value, and they should be verifying everything. He's been caught too many times overselling stuff from, having a giant crashed UFO under a building that was built on top of it, to Jim's ball shavings, to he just where do you go? Like, he's lost all credibility as far as I'm concerned, and so I was really skeptical. But when I saw the footage tonight, I was just disappointed. I really expected this to be maybe something different. I thought maybe there was going to be some conclusive. I finally want to see an egg or a tic tac zipping around doing some crazy shit that I can't explain. That's what I want to see. I want to see physics defying movement that they're promising is out there on footage, but they just can't ever seem to deliver. It's always some garbage, oh, it happened right before the camera was off, or right here's some footage that happened right after that, or before that, or whatever. Where is the physics defying movement? Where is the UFO? Where's the UAP? And I don't mean a guy telling me about him flying a helicopter and feeling all woojie boo when he saw an egg. I mean, like, I can look at a sunrise in the morning and get an emotional response from it, but that doesn't mean the sun is causing me to have that response. That's the human condition, to look at something or to have an emotional reaction to an inanimate object. That's our perception. It's not the object causing it. It's ridiculous. And so I try to look at stuff like this footage tonight, like from a scientific point of view. We have to look at the footage and say what can we analyze and what can we reproduce. This guy's feelings, anecdotal evidence really doesn't matter to me. There's not much I could do with that. That's crosses from science into theology, and you go from fact into belief. And I'm not here to talk about people's beliefs. I'm not here to talk about what he believed he felt during the time. I want to talk about what we saw in the video, which was an egg-shaped object appeared to be being towed by a long line on a helicopter, and that's about it. We don't know where it was. We don't know when it was taken. We don't know what the conditions were. I mean, was he dropping it off? Was he picking it up? Was he, why, if this was a crashed NHI, non-human intelligence craft, a UFO, why wasn't there dozens of guys around on the ground with fucking rifles and trucks? And, why wasn't every, military person in the, crash retrieval team, why weren't they all there? Why is it just some weird, quiet, middle of nowhere, blase footage that could be anything from a aerostat blimp, like I think it is, to, just a mundane object. There's nothing in the video footage.
I was expecting the footage to be. I honestly thought that it would be a helicopter transporting a big propane tank. That's what I was expecting, and it didn't disappoint. It was almost that bad. But I think you nailed it with the aerostat. I think we'll find out, because some experts will surely chime in. And I think it's an aerostat. That's what I think it is. And I've already heard from at least one person who told me, and I haven't verified this person, so take from this what you will. But one person messaged me and said, I'm a viewer of your show, and I work for the Border Patrol, and we use these aerostats for surveillance around the border, and we do transport them at times with a helicopter. And so to me, I went, well, that could easily be footage from one of those transportations, and I get it. I'm sure the true believers are going to say, you can't prove it's an aerostat. Well, you can't prove it's an alien spaceship either. So I guess we're at an impasse, which means this so-called evidence doesn't pass the test of falsifiability, which means it's worthless. It's totally worthless. And also, did everybody else catch this? Ross basically promoted this story, and all the true believers were saying, this whistleblower has a video. And it turns out that this video is not from the whistleblower. It's from a completely different source and a completely unrelated event to the story that he was talking about, but it matches his story, so we'll use it anyway. And also, this person that's the whistleblower, this Jay guy, he claims that this was classified. Therefore, he shouldn't be allowed to even speak about this, let alone show a video of it. So I guess that's what their excuse is going to be. Well, we couldn't show a video from him because it was classified. You know, they dance around and they do this stuff. Grider, what did you think of the bait and switch? Do you think I'm right that they bait and switched it in order to sell this story? And what did you think of the so-called evidence, the video? We'll share it in a moment. And we've lost Grider.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Did you hear my question? I said, what did you think of the so-called bait and switch? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think it was pretty standard, right? It was pretty par. I mean, it was about expected, about what I expected out of Coulthart. I have to say that I think Manny's right on this one. Yeah, I'm gonna say that it's some type of lighter than air aerostat helicite, something like it's some type of lighter than air ISR platform. You know, but I've never seen one. You know, I mean, not that I really have a lot of experience with them, but I've never seen a picture or an image of one being towed by a helicopter. Being sling loaded like that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, those things are pretty light to begin with, and usually you can tie them off to like the back of a Humvee, or you know, they actually have like a carrier system. It's like a trailer that you can dock them with, and then so like why it would be towed by a helicopter doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But Manny, do you know any more on like why it would be towed like that and how it would kind of you know, not be floating up into the helicopter, being that it is like a lighter than air vehicle?
Well, the helium could be spent. The helium only lasts a few days in those things, maybe a week, right? And then it kind of stales out.
But then it would deflate, right?
Not totally. Have you ever had a helium balloon that just stopped floating and it deflates a little, but it's still mostly blown up? You know, like when you were a kid? That's what I thought.
And then it just sinks to the ground, which is what I think happened. I think the thing just sunk to the ground. It crashed, for lack of a better term, or at least it stopped floating and flying. And so this was part of the retrieval effort. They probably out in the middle of nowhere, because if they could get it with a truck, they probably would have. But they probably were just retrieving it. And there's also the possibility that it is what we think it is. It just wasn't one of ours. It might have been a foreign adversary's balloon that they flew over here and they're trying to retrieve it. You know, crashed in the middle of nowhere. Looks like desert, though. It doesn't look like forest to me. It looks like high desert.
Yeah, and so let's take a look.
Dude, that makes a ton of sense.
Oh, wait a second.
That makes a ton of sense.
Let me put up there. They're gonna copyright claim me. But
that also explains why Grider, why they would, and Stephen, why they would classify it. If it was one of ours, it wouldn't be classified, because those devices aren't classified. You can find information going back to at least 2007 about those devices on the internet.
But if it was used in a war theater or in a
or if it was a foreign adversaries, Russian or Chinese, then they definitely would classify it, because they don't want it to get out until they can reverse engineer it.
But for the benefit of the audience, I want to share, this is what all of the hype was about. This is supposed to be video of an alien egg that crashed being retrieved by a legacy crash retrieval program. And we're citing fair use. We're discussing this with our panel. The live chat is discussing it. This is a transformative work, and we're using this clip to educate the public. So here is the alien. And it looks like it's not being retrieved. It looks like it's being dropped off. If it was retrieved, they would take off with it. They're leaving
Let's slow this down.
Right, they're dropping it off somewhere.
They're dropping it off somewhere, not retrieving it.
UAP suspended from a 150-foot long line. We're told the craft is about 20 feet long. The egg suspended in a cradle. And look how careful the pilot is as they bring their precious cargo into land. Let's freeze frame here to look at one of the clearest images of a UAP.
You see how it rolled there when he dropped it off?
This is
very
blurry.
It looked like a
light in
balloon
distant
rolling
sky.
to me.
100%. If that had any sort of weight,
I'm not gonna lie, like,
incredible risk to
it would have stayed in place
at
if it had
first,
weight.
like,
retrieval. Look
at
how
first I was
perfectly
convinced that
smooth
this
the
video was
craft is.
completely fake.
No
Like, I thought that
markings at
there
all,
wasn't anything
and
real about
no
it.
visible
I thought it was like
means of
somebody with like a
propulsion
literal
or way
egg,
to
like
see
in a piece
in
of fabric. But I found a picture from some of my training when I was taking a picture over one of the crew chief that was in this Chinook that we were doing sling load ops with, and it was about 150 feet that we were up off the ground. And I have that. I can share my screen and show you
Hey,
guys what that looked
real quick,
like,
I'm glad you said that,
and
Grider.
it looks
That's
very, very
another thing.
similar.
Because you said Chinook, and will you explain to people the difference between a Chinook and say an Apache or a Blackhawk or something? The biggest
Oh
difference?
yeah, so there's a big yeah. So well, I don't think we're sure which type of helicopter this was supposedly filmed from, right? Like we don't know for sure, but a
We don't know
Chinook is
anything about
basically
it.
like
Could
a
be
dual
any. It could
rotor.
be. It could be any kind of
Yeah, we don't know
helicopter.
anything. I would assume that it's probably not a Chinook because the downdraft would be on those are really, really strong, even at 150 feet. But a Chinook is the most powerful dual rotor helicopter uh, in the entire military. It's the fastest. It's the most powerful. It has 2 jet engines on it on each side of the back of it. It can hold up to right around 60 troops. If you have it fully loaded, and it can also get to the highest elevations. It's basically the best helicopter that we have, and there's different variants of it, and it can do sling load operations where it can sling load um, you know, heavy machinery. It can sling load howitzers, like artillery guns. It can sling load, ammo, artillery shells, and then take it out to, a base that's really remote. It
Pretty
can
versatile,
do
in
all
other
types of
words.
stuff.
Yeah,
Basically, it's
and
yeah.
that can
Whereas
lift.
like an
That
Apache
could lift. That could
helicopter
lift the most
has
weight too, right? That could lift the most weight of all
it
the.
can lift, yeah, absolutely. I think maybe the Super Stallion can lift a little bit more, maybe, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, as far as raw power, the Chinook is the fastest, the most powerful, most torque. It's great.
And biggest, right?
Uh,
I've seen one at an air show. I've been inside one.
and the biggest. Yep,
I've been
yep.
inside
It
one
is.
at
It's a
McGuire Air Force
massive
Base.
machine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
they're.
impressed
I
at how
mean,
big it
it's
was. I
really a beautiful
remember.
machine. So compare that to like a Blackhawk. A Blackhawk is about maybe a fifth of well, I'd say about 25% of the size would be my guess. Just much smaller. It can only hold right around, I want to say 10, 8 to 10 passengers, and then it's got 2 crew chief, and it's got 2 pilots. So that's 4 crew typically, and then up to 10 passengers. Which usually Blackhawks are used for either medevacs, which is where they just have 2 medics on board instead of the crew chiefs, and then they have the seats that are emptied out, but Blackhawks typically aren't used for any sling load operations. Like I've never seen one sling load. I'm sure they could, but they don't. And then Apaches are used for like close air support. So like an Apache is a 2-seater combat like close air support CAS aircraft that is armed with usually some type of missile, whether it be Hellfire or 2.75 rockets, or and then it has some type of some type of gun, some type of minigun, some type of 50 caliber weapon also attached to it, and it's for close air support. But when I say close air support, an Apache can hit a target about 2 miles away. So like you can't, I mean, you could not even hear it, when it shoots at you. That's how far away it can be. But
So they're not using
yeah, does
single
that make
rotor
sense?
craft
And
like the Apache and the Blackhawk to sling load and carry and transport. They're using big
no, I
Chinook,
mean,
and
you
these are
can,
huge aircraft. I
you
mean, they're
can,
massive.
but I mean, it depends on if this is a contractor or if this is, yeah, like I know that you can do it with single rotors, but most people would not. That
Right. We
if
see
they
them
have
do
the
it here in the
choice, yeah.
Northwest. They do it around Christmas tree time. What they do is they'll load up a bunch of Christmas trees that are bundled together, and a helicopter will fly in. They'll hook a steel cable to it. They'll grab it and they'll pull it out of the woods up towards a truck, and then they'll load it from there onto a truck. And it's dangerous, high paced work. They do it. It's not a Chinook at that point. It is a single rotor craft, normally like a Bell Jet Ranger or something like that. Like it's a private craft. It's not a military craft, obviously, but it's dangerous work, and you don't do it lightheartedly, and you don't do it on a whim. This looks like it probably is a Chinook, but that's my biggest question and concern here is why is there no rotor wash? Even if this is a 150-foot long line, we should still see some kind of rotor wash from a Chinook. Like there should be some kind of displacement on the ground. We're not seeing any
Well,
of
that's
it.
just it. Do you leave everything open ended? Like, oh, we didn't say it was a Chinook. It could be a tiny helicopter that's just used for transport, or whatever. But I'm really shocked by the bait and switch, because all the true believers were like, "Oh no, Stephen, this time this whistleblower is going to show us a video," and then they bait and switch and go, "Oh, well, this is a video of a similar event." Or, you know, he didn't say similar event,
See,
but
I'll tell you what's most shocking, like, is the way that it's secured, the way that the sling load is set up. That does not look proper. Not that I did not go to air assault school, which is where you learn how to sling load, this type of stuff. Sling load
yeah,
anything.
it looks janky.
I was never taught officially, but like I have hooked up sling loads. Like I showed Steven a video. I've got a video I can show of me hooking up
Yeah,
a sling load to the bottom
I
of
could
a
share
Chinook.
that. I could share that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
do show that.
yeah,
if you
and
don't
so
mind.
like I will say that it's like that looks like a really like a flat piece of rope almost. That looks like a flat piece of cord almost. That doesn't look like a flat, like almost like a ribbon cord is what it looks like. It doesn't look like anything that you would sling load normally with, which are usually braided either chains or really thick ropes, like really heavy duty ropes.
Would you use a nylon tie down or come along or something like that too? Like a like a flat 4 or 6 inch nylon tie down, or would you be using rope in this case? You think?
And here's Grider's video, by the way. We're gonna.
I mean, it just depends. Like,
And
it just really
see,
depends.
this is
on,
why it's good to have people that actually know what they're talking about. Because don't you think that let's take Ross Coulthart and set him aside. A real journalist, if they talk to somebody like Grider, could look at this video and offer some kind of opinions that would maybe make you go, well, maybe it's not an alien spaceship here. You know what I mean? This is Grider actually
keep in mind too, Steven.
doing this.
Keep in mind too, Steven, is that like
which one are
when
you?
I
Are
first
you the
saw
guy on
video,
the box?
like
are you the guy on the box? Or are you the
yeah,
guy
the guy that's on the box. Yeah,
There's
the guy that's
Grider.
on the box.
Look
But
at those backwards
here's
pointed
the thing,
feet on
too,
the
it's
bottom
like-
of there. That's just like on the Tic Tac. Look at the backwards pointed feet on the.
Here's the thing is that like keep in mind, like I kind of have to admit that like when I first saw the video, when I first saw the News Nation video, guys, I thought that it was literally a fake to the point. Like I thought up until Manny started talking about 20 minutes ago, I thought that it was like some dude with like a piece of fabric like up above like
It still
his
could be.
kitchen table, like
Still could
making
be.
a video. That's what I thought. It was like
Seems
an
very
egg wrapped with like
suspicious that
fishing line.
It seems very suspicious that there's zero rotor wash. Even if that's very short grass that it's being dropped into, you would see some movement. And I looked at it, but people have to forgive me in case anybody's unaware. I'm literally half blind, so I'm not very good at video analysis of these type of things. I have to rely on other people.
Do you want to see a video filmed from the bottom of a Chinook? And
yeah, that'd be cool.
here, I can
Yeah,
show
sure.
you.
Share my
let me
screen
share
real
my
quick
screen.
too, Stephen. I've got a video for comparison here
Okay.
of what he's talking about.
And where are you sending this to me?
It just says I'm sharing the window.
Oh, okay. You're doing it right here. Okay.
Yeah.
This is Grider screen share, Manny. Is this one?
Yes.
All right. You go. And this is fair use, friends.
There's what Grider is talking
Hey, now
about.
this looks pretty believable.
Yeah, look at that.
Now that's
It looks more believable
Hey.
than what we saw on News Nation. I mean, come on now.
Wow.
yeah.
You just
Now,
do that,
if you
man?
replace that with a better line and put like a little bra on that egg, that's the video, dude. Like
I
that's
mean-
the video.
Oh man,
Put some
you get
sound
another one.
effects
We get a
in.
pair of them.
Yeah.
Turn your ceiling fan on so you get some rotor wash on that shag carpet, and you're
Yo,
good
you
to go.
should have
Like, we're close.
we should have
There we go,
saved
dude.
this for Grift
But the
month.
thing is, it is all about the name, guys. We have to come up with a name, like the jellyfish, the Mojave Triangle. We got to come up with something, something sexy, something that really gets people excited. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything.
Can I just say, here's something that I think skeptics that bothers me about skeptics and debunkers. We spend so much more time trying to figure these things out.
Yeah, and we have to be
like-
100% right and 100% overwhelming evidence. And meanwhile, the other side not so much. I agree.
Right, and also just the fact that I don't particularly even care to try to figure out what it is that I'm seeing in that video, because I have been given absolutely no reason to think that there's anything interesting in that video to begin with. So one of the things that I noticed in both videos that he played, the egg one and also the so-called like space dogfight one, is that the story is what is telling us what we are seeing. The videos do not speak for themselves. The videos could
Right.
lend themselves to a million different interpretations. It's the story that goes with them that influences what we think we are seeing. And
We
Coulthart,
weren't even given the story, right? Like,
well, no,
we don't know who the video came
no,
from,
right,
do we?
right. But the story in terms of, for example, the egg video, when he was first showing it, Coulthart refers to it as a UAP multiple times. He also says this UAP has no visible means of propulsion. He calls it a craft. Notice that the language that he's using is forcing an interpretation on what we are seeing
Hmm.
that the video itself absolutely does not show us. I am not looking at a spacecraft. He is telling me I'm looking at one. And so why would I
Good point.
bother
Yeah.
to even try to fucking find a debunk for this when I have absolutely no reason to believe that the story he is claiming to giving us is true in the first
And
place? It's
also, the
just a waste of
story
time.
was, it's very important that we keep hammering this point. The story was promoted that this whistleblower has evidence. He's going to show us a video of him participating in an alien spaceship crash retrieval. And then they do a bait and switch and go, oh, here's a video that was sent to me from an anonymous source at great personal risk to them that we got independently, which means it didn't come from the source. It came from somebody else. So who cares? It's apples and oranges. You're mixing two. They do this all the time. They conflate separate events into one. And to a casual observer, they might miss that and go, "Oh, this is the video that this guy made while he was who's telling the story about
Right.
the alien crash retrievals." And
I think that's what they're counting on, Stephen, is that to the mainstream and to casual observers that they're not going to know the difference. And unfortunately they're right. There will be places, red label news services, like um, the Sun UK or something that picks up this story tomorrow and shows that as an authentic UAP or UFO, runs with it. There's going to be people that run with it. But for most of the people who have followed these people, this is just nothing new. It's the same old bait and switch, overhype, under deliver. And I agree with everything that Sky Anomalies was just saying right there. We need to take the stories away and the anecdotal evidence away and just look at the evidence, which is just this video, which isn't even this guy's claim. This is like a completely different event than Baker is even claiming was his. So
yeah, and it's a
what are we even looking
conflation of
at?
events to sell a story, which proves that this is stagecraft and deception. And
Mhm.
I try to hammer it home, like maybe I just spent too much time in the entertainment industry, but I know how to put a show together. And so many of these UFO big events, it's a show. It's just a show. Come on in, get your ticket. And we're going to use stagecraft. We're going to use a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I love how they also, they pepper in also, well, these are some other military guys that say he's very credible, but that doesn't really tell us that they weren't witnesses to what he claims he witnessed. So that's not really evidence, but it's kind of evidence. It's like halfway evidence.
It's character evidence, but it's not
Yeah,
direct evidence. Again, and we have to discount the character evidence and the anecdotal evidence because it's unverifiable. There's nothing you can't prove or disprove it. There's really nothing there.
And
yeah. And I just want to take a moment to mention, I hate to be a pay pig whore here, but I screwed up on the goal, friends, if you're listening in the live chat. And I set the timer for like 20 minutes. So I reset the timer. We got 5 super chats of the 20. I reset the timer. We'll be reading all the super chats after the conversation here, which is going great. And I don't really want to interrupt it to praise the cash every 5 minutes. I hope you guys understand, but I will read them all. So
can I ask a question real quick? Did I understand correctly that when he retrieved this object, he at the time had absolutely no reason to believe that it was
yeah,
NHI or
he just
extraterrestrial? It
he
was
just didn't
after
know
the
what it
fact, right?
was.
And it was after the fact that
So
someone
yeah,
told them, and that's
and
when.
guess who? Members of the UAPTF, which are part of this core
Yeah.
group of true believers that Stephen Greenstreet has called repeatedly the spooky gang. It's the same core group of people that keep promoting these stories. And if you notice, members of the same core group of people were deeply involved and entrenched in this story. We've got Gary Nolan is involved in this story. We've got members of the UAPTF, which remain unnamed. So they do the lie by omission because if they name the people that told them it was aliens, most of us skeptics would instantly go, yeah, that guy's a wackadoo. I believe it was Travis Taylor and Jay Stratton, two people who are complete and total true believer wackadoos. One believes werewolves followed him home from Skinwalker Ranch, and the other one doesn't know the difference between a bug flying by a camera and an alien spaceship doing 3,000 miles an hour.
You
You
know what's
know,
interesting is in the
they
post show
basically,
interview.
those guys got fired from the United States government for being wackadoos looking for aliens, and they totally missed all the Chinese spy balloons and spy surveillance systems that were encroaching on our territory because they were too busy looking for aliens.
Yeah,
Right?
in
So they
the
basically get fired, and then they had to set up a new organization that would be more skeptical and a reaction. And also, the UAPTF also had that girl, Sarah Gam, who is a psychic medium. And for $150, she'll talk to your dead grandmom for you. And they also have other wackadoos, as Stephen Greenstreet described. There's one guy who was on the UAPTF task force who believed that when he slept, a ghost girl tickled his feet. Like, these are the kind of people that were in the UAPTF. They were all wackadoos. I guess the government was like, we need somebody to work on UFOs. Who can we get? And they just got these wackadoos. So again, it's a deceptive part of the story. Another lie by omission point, and we'll go around here, and I want everybody's thoughts on this. This guy could prove parts of his story. He claimed that he was a contractor. He could show us the contract. He had to sign a contract to become a contractor. He could show us the paperwork. He could show us the NDAs. And if he's working in a classified setting, he's not allowed to even speak about that. So why is he on News Nation telling this story? Unless maybe he never was. That's what I thought. Because if you truly worked on in a classified area for the United States government, even as a contractor, you can't talk about it even years later. You sign an NDA and you face very stiff consequences if you divulge anything, even your involvement in these kind of projects. And so he could show us the contract. He could tell us what company he was working for as a contractor. He didn't. He didn't show us the contract, didn't tell us what company. Then there was claims that he was medically, affected somehow by one of these crash retrievals, and he may have had they pulled out the radioactive, I might have been exposed to radioactivity and I could possibly have been suffering from the effects of radiation poisoning. And who did they bring in to validate that point? Gary Nolan,
Nolan,
another known wackadoo who's not a medical doctor, who said, oh, he evaluated his medical records. Well, then show us your medical records. He said he was in the hospital after this event, and so were his crew. Show us all the medical records. They didn't.
You know what?
And I believe we'll never see any of these documents. We'll never see the contract when he became a contractor. We'll never see the NDAs he signed. We'll never see his medical records. But hey, we showed the medical records to this other wackadoo who's helped Ross Coulthart sell other completely and totally fake stories, like the ball shaving stories, where they claimed that they had conclusive proof of alien technology, all confirmed by this man. And then they cut to a shot of Michio Kaku. Michio Kaku didn't confirm alien technology. They didn't have any evidence, let alone conclusive proof. So this is all a carefully constructed narrative. It's stagecraft, in my opinion. What does everybody think, starting with Manny? And then we'll go Grider and Sky Anomalies. He could prove this story or big parts of it if he released more information. I don't believe he will.
He could at least prove some credentials, like you said, which would go to speak to his character. But it's not, again, if he's in a Chinook and they're transporting something like that, there's another pilot and there's somebody else that's operating the lift and running the cable.
Corroborating witnesses. Name the corroborating witnesses.
Should be there that could back up his story and confirm it. So let's get into that. And again, like you said, I have a feeling that it's not a classified program, or he wouldn't be talking about it as freely as he is. If he was, he'd be facing going to jail for it. So I just don't understand.
Manny, somebody already clipped. People already clipped your they're calling it extraordinary UFO footage, and it's on Twitter already.
Oh, the egg.
Yeah, the egg.
That's not mine. I found that on social media. So
did you?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I thought you made it. Okay.
No. That's funny though. Yeah, so like there's that. I we don't know what this is, but we know what it isn't. It isn't what they promised us. It's not smoking gun evidence of a whistleblower crash retrieval program, reverse engineering. Once again, they've lied. They've baited us into it. They've goaded us into it. They've told us what they're going to show us, and then they show us something completely different and go, see, I told you, and just like Sky Anomalies was saying earlier, without that narrative attached to it, what we have is nothing. We've got nothing here. This is absolute nothing burger. And I'm so disappointed, man. These people, these UFO disclosure activist group people, this whole clump of people have given me blue balls so much in the last 8 years. My balls are so blue, they're like dark purple. They're almost black. Like, come on. Like, shit or get off the pot, guys. Shit or get off
Well,
the
they
pot.
got it. They got it. They're trying to give you the disclosure boner, but all they give you is disclosure blue balls because they never. It's always. You're right though. It's always over promise, under deliver, and then why does Ross get a pass? He should not get a pass for promoting this story as if the whistleblower is going to show us the video of him retrieving an alien spaceship, and then he bait and switches us. He should never get away with this again. And in fact, I was shocked at the number of people who were arguing with me leading up to this because I go, look, I'm not feeling well a couple days ago. I'll post this 10-hour video of all of Ross's fake previous stories, and then people will understand that this new one's probably fake. Nope. Everybody's telling me what a great journalist he is, all this stuff, and how wrong I am. And I'm like, it just, the history doesn't matter. There's never a consequence. And I guarantee within 6 months, he'll be back with another one of these. I guarantee it. I guarantee it.
Well, if his past behavior is any indicator of his future behavior, I agree with you. He's done this so many times where he overpromises, comes up with a new scam, a new hype, whatever. It's always a new whistleblower, and it's just, I mean, if this is the caliber of the 40 whistleblowers that Dave Grush had, I hate to say it, but it was all bullshit from the start. It was all a bunch of bullshit. Bunch
I
of
think
people
these are the
who are
40. I think these are the
this is
40.
this is pathetic.
These are the
That's pathetic.
this is the spooky gang. Imagine a circle within a circle. In the inner circle was the spooky gang that Stephen Greenstreet talks about. Hal Putoff, Lou Elizondo,
Yep.
Gary Nolan, all these people, Jay Stratton, Travis Taylor, Brandon Fugel, Leslie Kane. They're all in the inner circle. And in that, right in the next circle are all of these people: Dave Grush, this guy Barbara, this Michael Herrera. And that's another thing. This whistleblower is deeply connected with Michael Herrera, who's already been busted as a complete and total fraud. His whole story was fake. So I think these were the guys that were in the outer circle, not the inner circle. So they were close to the spooky gang and they were hovering around, and they sent Grush on a wild goose chase in that outer circle to talk to all these clowns. And so then he became convinced, and now we're seeing some of these people that were probably the same people that Grush talked to.
So real quick, Ross did an interview right after the show itself. He did mention that Grush confirmed this specific guy was not one of the 40.
Okay.
Doesn't make much of a difference, but this yeah,
All right.
for
Yeah. Well,
what that
great.
is
We
worth.
like that for clarity then. Okay. So Grush said this guy wasn't one of the 40, but he kind of said Jason Sands was one of the 40, then said Jason Sands was one of the 80 or something like that. Like he did talk to him, but he wasn't one of the 40. So who knows? And who cares what Dave Grush has to say? That those guys made millions of dollars off of taking advantage of an autistic, mentally ill man, convincing him that aliens are real and to destroy his career. And people argue with me, but anybody that can do third grade math can add up the monetized YouTube views from everybody that covered the Grush story. Millions of dollars were generated. I don't really care what Grush has to say. He has no evidence. He's not a whistleblower. He's a storyteller, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, secondhand storyteller even.
Mhm.
Telling or third hand in some cases.
Somebody told me.
Yeah.
Trust me, bro.
Yeah, and it all comes back to, I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of it goes back to Hal Putoff. Like he's the one who's been spreading this stuff around, and it goes.
Yeah,
from
but
him
even
to
if
himself.
they're decades of grifting off of this stuff, Hal Putoff did a stream today with that slob girl. I can never remember her name. Something about a rabbit hole, I think. And they had 5,000 viewers with Leslie Kane, Hal Putoff, Gary Nolan. So people have to realize what a small subculture this is. These guys have been grifting like this for decades, and they do a live stream all together. And that's another issue we should talk about. All of this seems coordinated. It's like, I got a whistleblower, I got a whistleblower, I got a whistleblower. None of them have any evidence, but they all got whistleblowers, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And it's all coordinated to come out around the same time, I think, so that they can get maximum excitement and maximum impact. So it's clear, at least to me, it's my opinion. I freely admit it's speculation, but I feel like they're all working together to
Oh, absolutely.
maximize the grifting profits. They
Yeah.
coordinate these drops. And also, how long did this happened to this guy years ago? He's just now telling his story, and apparently he told his story to other people long time ago. They all sat on it. They told the UAPTF, those guys all sat on it. They sit on it until they need it at a convenient time when it's slow in UFO land. That's
Yeah.
not a coincidence, right?
Stephen, in response to the question, what you said about stagecraft, a mutual friend of ours wanted me to read this out loud for you. This is from Jeremy McGowan. This was the most overhyped, under-delivered bullshit story that has ever existed, aside from purple mantis beings living in a cave.
I think I know that mutual friend and thank them. And Manny, you had something to share here. Do you want me to share that screen?
Yeah, you can pull that up. That's just kind of where this is some of the research that I did into some of the things that this is why I think that we might have been looking at an aerostat or in this case an aerostat or blimp.
Well, if you wanted that read, can you do me a favor
It
and
just
read
doesn't
that? Because
really.
I can't read that.
Yeah. Well, if people don't know what aerogels are, they're something that NASA's came up with. They're an insulator, and they're going to be using them to make blimps and balloons because they're, as you can see in this photograph right here, which I can probably zoom it up a little bit here. They're extremely high density but low weight. You know, like they can hold a lot of weight. They don't have a lot of weight. They're I think it's 98% air. You know, it's like air infused in this gel, but they're extremely strong. So they're building with them. And in fact, there's this patent from 2018, I believe, where they're building balloons out of them back as far as that goes, and they're still continuing to file for patents on them all the way through, today.
Well, it beats latex, right? It's a better material.
Yeah, and they're going to be using it in a lot of aerospace applications. Lockheed Martin's already talked about using them, and I think they've already been using them for some of their new in aircraft design.
And let's do me a favor and let me catch up. I do want to catch up on some of these super chats. Taxenstein says tonight's tithing, one for the goal, and I'm way behind. Mike Larry has gifted 5 memberships, which is why you should subscribe, because if you are in the live chat and you're a subscriber, not yet a member, you can get a free membership. Saiwilla, why Google got a free membership thanks to the kindness, generosity, and support. Sneed got a free membership. Dylan got a free membership. Morse Code. Dontron got a free membership thanks to the kindness, generosity, and support of Mike Larry. We have Double Tap Rangers Outdoor. Trust me, bro. High Intel, Inside Source, blah, blah, buckle up, blah, blah, blah. Hey, Steven, glad I made it. I'm glad you made it too, and we'll take your $6.99. Thank you. Pentaxenstein, the final experiment is a perfect example of the flat Earth side. It's kind of pathetic. Yeah, it's funny. All the flat Earth people are freaking out because somebody went to Antarctica and proved that the sun is going around. Build a better potato can, and the UFO community will beat a path to your door, says Pentaxenstein with 5. Thank you. And we've got Mike Larry with 20 gifted memberships. I'm not going to read all the people that got a free one, but that is why you should subscribe, because then you get a free membership. All 20 people got a free membership thanks to the kindness, generosity, and support of the MVP of Mike Larry. And then he gifted 10 more free memberships. Thank you, Mike Larry. Very generous of you. I'm almost caught up. Just give me one more moment, and then we'll continue towards the goal. We have Duco's Alpha Ralpha, so it just says praise the cash with $2, and don't touch me, I'm crazy with $2. Is Ross going to sit on the egg until it hatches? Yeah, and let's talk about that. Do we really think he's going to get away with this? I do. I think he's going to get away with this because people are going to be arguing, telling us we can't prove that's a balloon or whatever for the next year. Alien eggs can be traded in at Spirit Halloween, says Duco. Thank you with another $2. Another one towards the goal. And we're all caught up. Okay, go ahead, Manny. I apologize.
Yeah, no worries. To answer your question you asked, I do think he's going to get away with this. For one, the News Nation platform is unfortunately larger than Truth Seekers,
It's
so
garbage. Yeah.
yeah, and they don't care. They like go
They
to their
hired him to do this,
oh
by the
yeah,
way. They
they don't care.
hired him to create sensational clickbait fake stories. They did it on purpose.
And they're getting their money's worth out of him. He's more than full of them, and he doesn't care. So might as well. If you want to be the modern day equivalent of the National Enquirer or the Weekly World News, go ahead. But don't expect people who are serious and who have an ounce of rational thinking to take you seriously, because we're not. Like News Nation is just gone, has lost all credibility along with Coulthart at this
Absolutely.
point.
They never had any to begin with. For those unaware, News Nation is where all the fired journalists went. Like Chris Cuomo got fired from CNN, Elizabeth Vargas got fired from somewhere. She went there. If you've gotten fired in a scandal and you can't get a job in any other news organization, you go to News
Right.
Nation.
It's
And
like
it's
the
not just
next
those
star
two. Yeah,
retirement path here.
it's not just those two. Those are just two examples I could think of. I did some research into many of the people on News Nation, and it appears to me to be it's filled with people that got fired from real jobs.
Yeah. And as people pointed out, this latest whistleblower had been on there before.
3
on
times
News
in the
Nation.
past year. This is
Yeah,
the
and it
third
said
time
nothing.
in the past year. So
Yeah. And now all of a sudden, like here 2 months ago or a month ago, he sets up a business that is basically sounds like one of the businesses that Elizondo and TTSA was going to do about this, like.
and it's got the guy from the SALT conference he's running it with as well.
Right. It's the same old
Yeah,
people,
it's the
same old
same
crap,
group of
and
people.
they're setting up a for-profit business, and
And they
positioning
want
themselves
government
to get money from the
contracts.
government.
They
Yeah.
want government contracts.
You
Yeah.
got it. And who's going to give it to him? The UFO czar, the new UFO czar, Luis Elizondo.
And by the way, do you think that's really going to happen, or is that hype? I don't think that's really going to happen.
I don't think so. I think with a little bit of digging, they're going to do some research into Lou and probably
Find out he's a
and realize-
grifter. Yeah.
Yeah, and find his anti-Trump sentiments that he's put out there on the internet. It's probably not a good idea to say that kind of thing and then go ask the guy for a job. But who knows? I mean, like anything, in this wacky world we're living in today, where bullshit just seems to get rewarded and the fight for truth gets punished. I wouldn't be surprised if it does happen. I don't think it'll work out the way they want. If Lou Elizondo does get some kind of government gig as a UFO or UAPs are, I think he's up a shit creek, because he's for one, he's going to have to be answerable to the public again. For two, it's going to put him under a Freedom of Information Act microscope, because that there's people out there who will just be filing FOIA requests on every single
Everything he does. Yeah.
He's made so many enemies over the years. Like that guy probably can't walk down the street without getting a FOIA request, on him if he was in a government position.
Well, yeah. For those unaware, I have some history with him ever since. For those unaware, I hosted Manny when he made a film that was very critical of Lou Elizondo, and then all of a sudden, people were putting my address out. People were coming in my live chat, threatening my wife by name and my children by name. Geniuses of the millennium, like they looked me up on Facebook, right? And then, of course, I have a registered LLC, so I guess anybody could find my address, but they doxed me. They did all kinds of stuff, and he was well aware of that, and he just let them do it. So ever since then, I'm like, fuck that guy. And I hear that he really doesn't like me because I call him the Pentagon UFO program director from the land of make-believe. He just isn't who he says he is. Even he has walked back what he originally claimed to be. He can't get his story straight. Oh, I was the director of a $22 million program. Oh, I was an important team member of a program. It wasn't even a program. It's so stupid. This is where we get into like the circus. Look, we've got a fake Pentagon program director. We've got a fake alien scientist, Gary Nolan. He's a fucking biologist. He's a immunologist. He's not a medical doctor. Why is he looking at medical records of this new so-called whistleblower, who, by the way, also is kind of edging towards superpowers and psionics and psychic powers, because I guess they couldn't fill the hour with just his UFO stories. So they had to round it out with some psychic shit to get those crystal hippie bitches rolled into this,
Plus, that medical part that he was talking about, I don't find it disbelievable at all, because it sounded a lot like Jeremy McGowan's experience when he had to guard that crate, I think, in the desert, I think it was. And it's very conceivable that he was carrying a weapon of mass destruction. And
yeah, it could be, but why not show us the medical records? Because listen, if you're going to tell a fantastical story, and let's say, for example, sky anomalies, that there's 20 data points to all of your story, and you can prove 5 of them 100%. You could show us, you could bring in the corroborating witnesses to the event, name them, interview them. You could show us the medical records. That's another data point. You could show us notes. You could interview his doctor. That would be another data point. You could interview the doctors at the hospital that treated all these people. That would be another data point. You could show us the contract that you signed to be a contractor at this classified area. That would be another data point. You could verify your employment with that contractor. That's another data point. There were so many data points here that a real journalist would have went after, and conveniently, Ross Coulthart didn't do any of that. I don't think that's
Right.
an accident. That's not an accident. That's a purposeful lie by omission. Let's just leave it out. And we can say this medical stuff, and then we can say we had this prestigious Stanford University guy
Right.
verify all of this. And to a casual listener, they go, well, he's a Stanford professor. He's pretty credible. They don't know that he's running around telling people that, he's been abducted by aliens and all this crazy shit that he talks about.
Right.
It's
But
it's
just
stage
remember
fright.
that all of those things could be true, and it would still give absolutely zero. It would still be not at all evidence for the actual stuff that we care about, the UAP stuff. So
Yes,
all of
but
those things could be
if
true.
you can prove 30% of 100% of your story is 100% true and accurate, that goes a long way towards maybe we should believe him on the other portion of the story, which he can't prove.
Sure, and
They
I'm
don't
happy to,
they don't do that.
yeah, and I'm happy to grant them that because it's just not that interesting. But I think the real answer is because we are not the target audience. That that the people that they're catering
Libs.
to are not asking the kinds of questions that you're interested in,
I
or
always
me.
say it's libs. It's low information viewers,
Yep,
LIVs,
yep.
low
So
information viewers.
they don't care for those medical records. They don't want to ask those kind of questions that we really dive deep into, and we're demanding. It's just
Oh,
not what
I
they
gotta
want.
pick this one because he's in the live chat. Phantomas Fanto with the kind of generous 5 towards the goal says, is there any UFO researcher out there that you think does credible research? What about Jeremy Rise, the alien scientist? Well, we've got the people on the panel I think are credible or they wouldn't be here. And Jeremy has been here multiple times. And I always say I can count the people I think are credible on one hand, maybe 2. And Jeremy is still on one of my hands. I like Jeremy's science-based approach, and I'm sure we disagree on many things. Pentaxenstein with another 10 towards the goal. Lou has exalted member of the Lollipop Guild. Thank you for that. And I'm just going to check in with the goal real quick. We need 13 more of you to hit the goal, but thank you all. We appreciate your kindness, generosity, and support. We're a viewer-supported show. Throw some money in my hat so I don't have to become a grifter, right? And did we lose somebody?
No, I just stopped,
Oh, no.
stopped the screen share. 'Cause
stopped
we're
the
not
screen
really.
share.
Yeah, I mean, people got the point that I believe it was
Okay,
an error
let me-
of limp. If
let me
anyone
fix
wants to
this
see
then.
those
There we go.
links, I can drop them later in the chat or something, so they can go do the reading.
Yeah, or give them your
That's
Twitter. You're going to put them on Twitter,
Manny,
right?
I mean, it just doesn't look like an arrow set to me. I tell you what it looks like. It looks like a fuel blivet. I mean, it looks like a fuel bladder is what it looks like to me.
Could be. There's another
Yeah, I think
possibility.
it could be.
Yeah. It just doesn't look like an aerostat because there's no aerodynamic fins on it. I've been really looking hard at it, and it just doesn't look like an aerostat.
You'll have to look at the link
yeah.
writer that I have for these vacuum balloons because they're a little bit different. They don't need any of that, and they don't even fill them with helium.
But I mean, you can tell that this this object is under pressure from the tie-ins, that it's from the rope. You can clearly see where the rope is pressuring the outside of this
right.
Balloon, bladder, whatever you want to call it. So it's under pressure. So
I don't think it's a solid object, though. I do think that it's either some type of balloon or fuel bladder is another good.
You can see the pressure. You can literally see it if you go. You can see
I don't think a solid object would a solid heavy object. I don't think would roll like that object rolled. It would stop on the ground. It wouldn't move once you dropped it. I don't think. I mean, I don't know. We have to get somebody like Jeremy Rise, who has a physics degree, to look at it. I'm sure Jeremy, shout out to Alien Scientist Channel, he'll be picking that video apart as well. But it's interesting that they didn't even try to eliminate prosaic explanations before they jumped straight to aliens, right? It's definitely aliens.
Yeah. Do you find it interesting that they clearly believe in CA5 and the its efficacy? And number one, what's interesting is the video that they shared does not show what they claim was happening. We just see some blurs on the video. But number two, if CA5 is actually efficacious, why are we still even debating this question? It clearly,
I
if it
always say
were,
that Stephen Greer should go live and summon the aliens and prove everybody wrong. He should just go live and summon the spaceships and show us the spaceship. Get 20 people with high power cameras and telescopes all in one location, summon the aliens and show us.
right, we
To
don't
me,
even
it's
need
a
the
huge.
government for that. We
He
don't need
has been.
government disclosure. We could just prove it ourselves
He has
if this
been.
stuff is real.
He's been grifting off that $10 app. And by the way, I bought the app and I'm going to do it and review it live on Truth Seekers. We're going to try to summon some aliens. And then if I don't see aliens, I'm going to sue Stephen Greer in small claims court to get my $10 back. And I swear to God, I'm going to do that. If I don't see aliens, I want my money back, because you're basically telling people, give us $10 and you can summon alien spaceships. So if I gave him the $10, if I can't summon an alien spaceship and I promise I'm going to follow all the instructions, I want my $10, right? Another one for the goal from Mega Palestine. Thank you for your kindness. I appreciate that. And we just need 12 more for the goal. So do we even want to talk about this Jesse Michels grifter? This guy basically told the same story, or part of the story, of that the alien armband. That was an old story. He is the worst of the so-called whistleblowers so far. And didn't you do some work on him, Grider? Or that was Average Chris, actually had a space, and they had real Green Berets ripping him apart. So he's kind of a nothing burger, because again, they called him a whistleblower to sell the story. He only has a story. He has no evidence whatsoever. Anybody want to chime in on Jesse Michels' fake whistleblower?
Jeez, yeah. I know Grider did a lot of. We did a space on him. Grider did a lot more work on his background than I did. Yeah, again, it's just more of the same. It always fits a common pattern, and it's so once you recognize and you learn what the pattern is, you can't help but unsee it every single time that these people come up. He's not whistleblowing, first of all. Maybe at most he's an experiencer. There is no claims of government misusing of funds or unethical behavior or misappropriation. Like, that's what a whistleblower is. He's not claiming any of those things. So that word has become so watered down that it's actually meaningless in this
The UFO
community.
people have destroyed the meaning of that word. They don't understand the meaning of the word. I always say a real whistleblower has consequences that don't include documentary deals, book deals, and live speaking fees. And also a big red flag for that guy for me was he claimed that there was a door, and on the door or next to the door, I don't remember if it was on the door or next to the door, it was off-world technology. So, like, the government has top secret alien technology, and they just put a big fat label on it. This is where we keep the off-world technology. Put a big sign there next to the door. It's so stupid. It defies logic. And thank you, Artisan Tony, for the super sticker.
I just want to say that
Thanks
I
for the
stand
goal.
with, we wait on Artisan Tony's little super chat. I stand with Michaela. I think she's the most credible whistleblower. All right, you can see. I mean, she's a woman. She's an experiencer. She's a veteran, and she's a whistleblower. It's like the quadfecta of credibility, in my opinion.
Wait, who?
So
Who is
like
this?
you guys can hate all you want.
Who is this?
Michaela, she's the Air Force whistleblower. She's blowing the whistle all over the place. Yeah, she's very, very credible.
She's blowing people. Well, the
And
whistle. She's blowing the whistle.
I did not say that. No, that's not what I said. I did not
You said
say
she's
that at all.
blowing all over the place.
I said she's blowing the whistle all over the place, as in she's in a lot of spaces blowing the whistle on all types of things. That's what yeah. So I support Michaela. She's a veteran, a woman, an experiencer, and a whistleblower. So if you don't stand with her, then you're a misogynist, anti-American communist. In my opinion.
And isn't it interesting that
I stand.
All these guys that sell these whistleblowers, they pull out the PTSD, and it's like a deflection card. Like, you can't be critical of them because they're an American hero. And didn't Jesse Michaels said if it was proven that that guy wasn't a war hero, he would stop making videos. And there seems to be a lot of problems with that guy. Like, he showed his DD-214, but left a lot of stuff out. Like, there were missing pages.
But
And
that's not
so,
the standard either. Who cares
yeah,
about whether or not he's a war hero? What we care about is did he actually
does he have
experience or
evidence?
witness?
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, we're not
Well, they don't have
contesting his military
they
record.
don't
We're
have
contesting the other
evidence.
stuff.
When you don't have evidence, you got to hype up the credentials. That's another common thread. They all hype up the credentials. How much of this piece tonight did Ross spend talking about this guy's resume and his impressive work history, and even bringing in character witnesses? But none of that proves that what he claims happened. So again, I go back to the test of falsifiability. I always keep coming back to that. Like, if you're going to submit your story, that's great. But if I can either prove or disprove your story is true,
No,
then it really has no value. Then it's just at an impasse.
Do not listen to any more veterans coming forward unless they bring a buddy to corroborate the story that was there when it happened. That saw it with. No, I'm dead serious. Like,
well, it's true. Michael
just
Herrera,
because somebody's a veteran doesn't mean that they're like worthy of trust. All right,
but somebody figured out.
I mean, I wish people would stop doing that. I mean, hell, if you want to apply that same logic, I'm a veteran. I had a security clearance. I deployed to combat. Okay,
I'm going to use you for Grift Week.
When I'm telling you not to trust these, I'm going to blow the whistle because I'm blowing the whistle on the whistleblowers. Do not trust anymore, not a single one that comes by themselves. Lone veteran whistleblowers are not trustworthy. You know why? Because you don't do anything alone in the military.
You're absolutely right. And
nobody, even Delta Force, does not do. Okay, well, maybe Delta Force does stuff solo, but just don't trust anymore. Like, there's no reason.
There's no reason. The perfect example of what you're talking about is Michael Herrera, one of Stephen Greer's fake whistleblowers. He came forward with this fantastic story. But here's the thing. He said that there was three or four other
general
people.
Discharge.
He said there was 3 or 4 other people with him when this event happened. And instead of those people coming forward to corroborate his story, his commanding officer came forward to say he's full of shit. None of this ever happened.
Yeah, his sergeant
I was with him the whole time.
Yeah, the guy's a liar.
Well, I guess we could just...
The guy's a liar.
We could write off...
he got kicked out of the military. He got kicked out.
Nice.
Keep in mind, with Herrera, he got a general discharge. He did not get an honorable discharge. His service was not honorable. Okay, he doesn't deserve a thank you for his service. The dude was kicked out of the military.
Well, I sent you a video earlier. He's
not an honorable person.
He's coming forward hyping up this Jake whistleblower as being the real deal.
Yeah, Herrera's tied into that Sentinels of the Ether. Like, Herrera is all tied into this guy Baker or Barker, the guy that just came out tonight.
That was Michael
Herrera. He
got
a general discharge.
Oh, general. Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Right,
a general, yeah.
You also have to remember, though, that it's a lot easier for...
A general means that you were a shitbag. A general doesn't mean that you served honorably.
It's a lot easier for service members and former service members to say what you're saying, but there's a big stigma and taboo against civilians like myself.
No, it's not. It's not, though. It is not. I'm telling you, it's not easy. It is not easy. Do you think that, like, I enjoyed, like... that space with Jason Sands. I did not. I did not enjoy that space. Just let me finish. Damn.
Go for it.
Just give me a second. No. Okay. Like, it is not pleasurable. Like, at least for me. Maybe for some of the other veterans, maybe they enjoyed it. Maybe Average Chris enjoyed it. I don't know. But I know that I did not, because I want to be able to trust that other veterans are, like, doing good things with their life when they get out of the service. All right. Because it gives a bad name to all veterans when you have these people that are running around using the credibility of, like, being a veteran. Everything that it means for, it's like they're cashing in that value of what it means to be a veteran, for their grift. And it's fucked up, and it's like, it's not a good thing in the long run for veterans in general. Now it's like people don't trust any veteran, and It's
Well,
just,
no, they still do.
it's not
See,
good.
this is what happened, Grider. The grifters figured out that if you put a guy that was that has a good military service record or credentials, or even served, and you just leave out like the general discharge, like they did with Herrera, then, and by the way, there's no excuse for somebody like Sean Ryan to not look into him and find that out before he platforms him, right? Sean Ryan's a military man. He knows these things. He knows that a general discharge means you were, in Grider's
I don't
words,
know.
a shitbag. He didn't do it. But these grifters figured out that if you put a guy that was in the military up to say these things, it's much more credible and believable to most people than if you put a regular guy off the street that wasn't a military guy, because people think, well, they're honorable and he served his country. Why would he lie? You know?
Yeah, well, I'm telling you that they're all full of shit. Not a single military whistleblower that I'm aware of has checked out. And I literally went and I spent an entire night searching every press release for the 19th Special Forces Group to try to find if that guy Randy Anderson had a Purple Heart, because Purple Hearts are given and there's a press release attached to it.
And there's a list, right?
100%. Well, not necessarily, but
There's
there
not a
is
list of
a
recipients
press
of Purple Heart.
release.
There's a press release.
There's something in a newspaper somewhere every time somebody gets a Purple Heart. That's a fact. And 19th Special Forces Group in the state of Utah, which is the National Guard unit that Randy Anderson was attached to, well, that would have 100%, like, they have a very predictable habit of like publishing all their awards in the local papers for all their awards, not just like Purple Hearts, but like
And you didn't
achievement
find it,
medals,
right?
everything,
You
because
didn't
it's
find
good
it.
for PR. I found nothing, and I literally went to the end of Google, like the end of the Wayback Machine. I read every single entry, every
Oh,
single
Grider, did you know? Did you
index
know this?
webpage,
I wanted
and
to
it's
ask you
just
because
not
you're a
there.
military guy. In the case of Charles Hall, you know, he's the tall white alien guy. I busted him as never being in the Air Force, and his whole story starts with the Air Force. And he does live UFO events, and he takes money, and he says, "When I was in the Air Force, I saw these aliens." I was mortified because my original understanding was that stolen valor was a felony, and you would get charged with fraud. But it turns out you only get charged with fraud if you claim you had a Purple Heart or a few other medals, and then you take money. So in this case, if this guy's
Yeah, well,
claiming
they're
that he had a
changing that.
if this guy's claiming that he had a Purple Heart and he got paid for that interview or anything, or he takes any money, he's in trouble. That could be considered fraud
Here's
and a
one thing.
felony.
So, based off of my research, it's very possible. Now, please pay attention. Please, like, note exactly what I say. Like the words that I use. It's very possible. It's possible that this guy, Randy, never saw combat. It's possible. It's very possible. Based off of the unit that he was in, the National Guard Green Beret unit, the deployment rotations that I was able to find a record of, it is very possible that the only time that he went overseas was for that training. It was that training deployment in Jordan, and that's not a combat. So it's very possible that this guy never
Well,
saw combat. And
Jesse
according to his
Michaels
DD
said,
214,
yeah. Go ahead. I'm
he
sorry.
had no, he had like none of the awards that you would think. He had no Afghanistan campaign medal, none of that. Now, could it have been on another DD 214? Sure, but
Why not show it? Yeah. You'd be proud of it. And
right,
you know what?
it
Jesse
just, it
Michaels
doesn't
is
make
a
any
weasel,
sense.
because Jesse Michaels said, if it turns out, I screen captured it, I saved it. Jesse Michaels says, if it turns out that he's not a war hero, I will stop making videos. So I kind of hope
Thank you
somebody
for your service, Red Cap.
proves. Yeah. I kind of hope that somebody
Oh,
proves.
I got a fellow red leg out there. That's a guy that did field artillery right there. Red Cap Goblin. See that? 8
Matthew
years, never
A.
saw combat.
Matthew
That's a
A
hero
says
out there.
Jesse Michaels is funded by Peter Thiel. And who was the guy that you said? And I want to thank him for his service as well. And we thank Fantamax Panto.
Jesse Michaels. That Jesse Michaels is the financial advisor for, like, he managed Peter Thiel's money for a while.
That's pretty
Like,
funny.
he was his financial manager. Yeah, that's crazy, huh?
Robert Hastings, his UFO nukes investigation. I'm in gray on that one because I haven't done enough reading and research into him. Double Tap Outdoors. I saw someone talking about The Jesse WB was describing an aliens video game. Well, thanks one for the goal, and we have Mark Center. What's Greer going to say about this egg? Another one for the goal. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. And we want to thank all of our honorable veterans for their service. You know, but I agree with Grider, and I'm not. I was never in the military. My dad tried to get me to go in the Navy, something fierce, Grider, but I didn't want to do it. So I have tremendous respect for military people, though, because my dad was like a drill sergeant and a Navy guy, and a helicopter. He was actually a helicopter mechanic, like this whistleblower, but he didn't have any crazy stories, you know. I have tremendous respect for everybody, and I agree with you that it cheapens all veterans if you're going to cash in that veteran card to make some UFO dollars. And I understand you guys get upset. Like, people are pissed at Jason Sands. People are pissed at this Michael Herrera. People are pissed at these guys because they know they're just cashing in the veteran card to get some UFO money, and that they're, you know, kind of making the military a mockery, or military service a mockery. Is that why you guys get so pissed?
Yeah, but I'll tell you what kills. Like, I'm done debunking Jason Sands. Like, are done like looking into his. Like, I like looked into it pretty hard, and I'm just gonna leave the man alone. And let me tell you why. It's not. It's because of the amount of people, the number of people from the UFO community, people that I'm in spaces with on a daily basis. You know, uh, who have come to me and like expressed like the emotional impact that like Jason Sands and his story had on them, and how it's devastated them. Like, it's devastated them to see Jason Sands be proven like non-credible. And like, I know that you think, well, you know, that's what the guy deserved, right? Which I agree to a point, but still, it's like
Oh yeah, I mean, I have empathy even
I'm
for
done with
people.
Jason Sands because like
Even for the people I
it
shit
kills
all
me
over,
every
I have
time.
empathy. I have empathy for people, even the people I shit all
It
over.
kills me every time that somebody comes to me and like they're just I can hear it in their voice how they're just like they're
And
so
Jason appears
devastated by the entire thing.
he appears to be, to me, and I'm not a psychiatrist. Maybe we can get psychologists, Sky Anomalies, to talk about this. Like, he appears, a lot of these people that I've consumed content from in this community and in the super soldier, especially the secret space people, they appear like they might have some underlying mental issues that is based on childhood trauma. So I always try to remind myself that maybe they're a little mental because they were severely abused or something, and these things are like a product of that abuse. It's very common. Sky Anomalies, do you have any psychological insight into some of these so-called experiencers and maybe why they would confabulate things and maybe tell these stories?
Yes, I can't speak about anyone specifically because,
I understand.
but in general, yes, there is something called fantasy proneness, which is an individual who has a difficult time um, distinguishing between what is something that they have simply imagined in their mind versus dreamt versus actual experienced. There's a deficit in what's called source monitoring. So when you, for example, have a dream or a nightmare and you wake up the next day, you typically have no problem recognizing that that thing that's in your mind right now that you're remembering was just a nightmare. It didn't really happen. It didn't really happen. For people who have fantasy proneness, they get lost in daydreams very easily. They're also very suggestible, very hypnotizable, and so they can easily get lost in a very vivid fantasy in their mind that to them feels as real as reality itself. And once they're in that state of mind, afterwards, they have a very difficult time distinguishing whether or not it was something that actually happened to them or they imagined it, because their ability to conjure those images in their mind is so powerful that it actually produces physical reactions and it feels identical to a memory from the first person point of view. So one of the things that Jason said that was really interesting to me was that story about killing the aliens in the caves, that came to him in the middle of an interview with the UAP task force 3 years ago. He had never even thought about it or remembered it until then. Something about that interview, somehow or another, probably led to some suggestive kinds of questions that led him down kind of that rabbit hole. Now, fantasy proneness is not a mental illness. It is something that every human being has, and it's on a spectrum. And the problem is, this is what it would look like if someone had fantasy prone personality, and then you add PTSD, you add a million other things on top of that, and you get a clusterfuck. That's why people like Jason come off as sincere. I don't think he's lying to us. He genuinely believes these things happen to him. The problem is that believing that it happened does not mean that in reality, in the physical world, it actually happened. There's a million different ways that you can have that kind of experience. So again, this is not a diagnosis of Jason. It's not even a mental illness, but this is one of many different ways that you can get someone like Jason in this community. And then the problem is that the community itself reinforces those beliefs by feeding into them, and it takes off from there.
Yeah, it's sad.
I hope that helps.
It does help. Yeah. And you know, I mean, I have empathy for Jason. I kind of left him largely alone too, you know, like I kind of just, to me, I just kind of wrote him off because I kind of went like, this is Corey Good level of fantasy to me, you know, and the fact that he's regurgitating stories from proven fraudsters like Corey Good or Charles Hall with the tall white alien story, it's just kind of you know. And again, there was two conflated events put together to sell that story. Like, oh, there was a UFO, and Jason claims that this alien got in a UFO that looked a lot like this other UFO we have on film. You know, it's a conflation of two separate events. And let me take this one real quick. Fantamus Fanto, Stephen, will you do something on Tim Alberino Peru face peelers? He actually went to Peru to film a documentary. Crazy if you know the story. It's largely fake and hyped up garbage, but you can email me some links at truthseekershow@gmail.com. Thank you for your kindness and for the goal. Kind of avoided that one because it was sometimes the stories are just so stupid I don't want to do them, to be very honest with you. And that's one of those stories that I think is kind of stupid. Manny, we'll get you back in here. Let's get some predictions from Manny. What's going to happen with this alien story, this Ross Coulthart story? I think people are going to debate. People are already telling me how wrong I am, and I can't prove it's not an alien spaceship. And you know the drill. Do you think maybe some experts will chime in and we'll get a 100% clear this is what that object was and it wasn't an alien? Do you think Ross is going to get a pass? Is this going to... I'm even seeing true believers message me like, what a shit show this was and a nothing burger. So what do you think is going to happen going forward with this one?
Well, a couple of things. I think at some point somebody's going to come forward and be able to officially and definitively identify what we saw in that video. It's clearly not anything classified, or we wouldn't be talking about it. They wouldn't have played it. But here's the thing: like, it was promised that this was going to be footage of the whistleblowers, and then it wasn't. So they, right off the bat, it's almost like a non-starter. There's really nothing to debate or to debunk. Because this isn't even footage that the whistleblower had. So really, once again, we've got all this hype about a whistleblower, and all he has at the end of the day is a story, and trust me, bro. So there's really nothing to get into. I mean, it's pretty much over before it even started. There's nothing to debunk. There's nothing to get into. Do I think that Ross Coulthart's going to get a pass in this case? Yeah, he is. Of course he's going to get a pass. The true believers don't care. He could show them a picture of a deflated, wiener balloon from the carnival, and they'd be like, oh, that's proof of NHI, because they're going to believe anything he tells them to believe. As long as he puts the story in front of it, they're going to go with it. And it's just, I mean, par for the course. It's the same old bait switch, overhype, underdeliver, same old garbage, man. It's Jim's Balls version 500. There's really nothing to go after. There's nothing to investigate. There's nothing to, I mean, at this point, I feel like we've already wasted enough time on it. We just need to move on past it and go to whatever's next, which is hopefully something with some substance. Ross, if you're listening, bring something to the table that we can sink our teeth into. Bring something legitimate. If there's anything to these stories about NHI and reverse engineering programs and crash retrieval programs, fucking now's the time. Now is the time to show it. Now is the time to bring it out and to
Absolutely.
and to bring the goods, because even the true believers are jumping ship like rats off the Titanic, man.
Do you think there's like a narrative here though that like, and this seems so very orchestrated. Like, first we'll bring out Elizondo and he'll say he worked at this secret program and there's really something to this. And later he'll get deeper and say it's got to be non-human intelligence. And then we'll shoot Grush out and he'll say, I talked to people that worked for these programs. and that'll be secondhand.
You
Then
guys
we'll
are
pull out
forgetting about.
the first hand witnesses, and they'll say, "I actually participated in this program." Right? It's like a narrative, but it's leading to nowhere because there's no meat
What
on the
about
bones of any of this.
guys? Manny and I brought we brought the most credible whistleblower until Michaela, of course. Manny and I brought Charles to the community, and I just want to say that that was the most. I mean, right? Like there was some credibility there. I
That
think was
guy went
untapped,
after
right,
me today,
Manny? You know,
Grider. That guy went after me today, Grider. He said I'm an
something we can
asshole.
be proud of, Manny. You know, Manny.
Yeah,
You know,
for
you
those
ever
unaware,
stay up at night thinking about the great
there's a
things
guy
we
named
did?
Charles. We have to explain to the audience who might not be familiar. There's a guy named Charles who's literally in prison, and he's a UFO whistleblower, and he's got his girlfriend bringing a phone to that like glass thing, and he's participating in spaces from prison, and people are sending him money so he could buy some commissary and get some ramen noodles and Cheetos and shit from the jail store. And then he's basically like, I'm a whistleblower, woo! And all these people in spaces are fawning over him, not knowing that he was in prison. Manny figured it all out and got all of his records, and we shared them. And then today he went after me and he said I was an asshole because I called him a kitty toucher. He got arrested for banging an underage girl. Therefore, he's a kitty toucher. Yeah. He was pissed off, Grider.
Oh my God, Cambion. Dude, I came so close to like almost having a heart attack laughing at you, being like, oh, I think there's a major plot hole here, you know, when you were like, Mr. Doty, tell me, do you go to prison and just like be like, oh, guys, we got a crash retrieval. You know what? Let's go to the prison and get a kitty toucher. I
Yeah,
was
let's go to
falling
the
out of my.
prison and get a
That
kitty
was
toucher.
that was one
'Cause
of the best.
he
That was
claimed
one of
he
the
was getting
highlights.
he
Oh, just
claimed
the
he was
best
getting
ever. Oh my
briefings.
God.
He claimed he was getting briefings, and it's so stupid. Like people
And
that are
then we're
working.
gonna let him talk about it in Twitter Spaces.
Did he melt away, that guy, or does
Oh
he
no,
still
he's still out there and he's gaining viewers or followers, and that I think that right there is kind of indicative of the problem in this community. Is that
a guy
if
that's
there,
a kitty toucher in prison is one of the UFO whistleblowers?
well, yeah, if
Phantasmus Phanto to the panel. This is good. If we can pivot to this, is there any meeting an alien story that seems credible in all of history that you've heard? You guys can all chime in individually.
Betty and Barney Hill. I'm just
Betty
gonna
and
throw it
Barney
out
Hill.
there.
What was the actual?
Pascagoula, maybe Pascagoula. I think there's may
Pascagoula is
have
a
been
good
something
story.
going on there
I
with that.
never covered it because I
Pascagoula
can't
is
decide
good.
on that one. Can't decide on that.
Pascagoula is. But how easy would it be for like them to know that like you know the cops would have had that recording going on and like you know like I
When
don't
they
know
punked those
who
cops,
knows
yeah.
what the hell happened. We will never have an answer on that, but that's one. But really, Betty and Barney Hill, you know,
And
yeah,
by the
if
way,
you can chalk it up, it could have been some
shout out and thoughts and prayers to Philip Mantle. I hear that he's not doing real well. He's got some medical issues. So I hope he's
Who's
going to
that?
do. I hope he's going to recover because I'd really like to have him here to talk about that case. I could never make up my mind. I bought the book that he just did, and I love the stories, Grider and everybody, Manny, Sky Anomalies. I love the stories that still remain in my gray basket. They're there for a reason. That I can't explain certain things, you know. I just can't explain certain things. Jeff and Iggy with kind and generous 20 towards the goal. Hypno character. Oh, that's a super sticker. Thank you for the super sticker. We appreciate you. Thanks for appreciating us. And go ahead, Manny. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. What were you about to say before I rudely interrupted you?
oh I don't know. I think that there's
Oh, we're talking about
people are
Charles,
yeah.
the child
We were
predator
answering the question.
bank
No.
robber. Yeah.
Steven, actually, no, Steven, we were talking about actually. We had the person who asked who did a
Oh
super
yeah.
chat.
Any alien?
I'm sorry, I
Any
forgot your.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and then I gave like my case that I thought you know, and then it was up to Manny and
yeah,
you and
Manny and
Craft Beer
Sky
to give you
Anomalies.
guys
What
what you think are
alien
the credible
meeting?
cases.
Yeah, what alien meeting stories do you think are credible in all of history that you heard? Manny, you go first, and then we'll go to Sky Anomalies.
I'm not sure if there's any meeting stories that I think are credible without verification or corroborating evidence. As
Always
far
the
as sightings
skeptic.
go, yeah, as far as sightings go, I think Agua Dia is still probably one of my most favorite that I think is probably anomalous and worth investigating further. As far
Have
as
you
the
read
reason
the
goes,
SCU paper, like the
I
big
have.
SCU
Oh
paper?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The SCU Bible on it. Yeah. And I've done a lot of other research
Yeah.
on it and found some other people who have investigated it from different angles, which are interesting. But there's a lot of misinformation out there too about that. Like, I swear at one point I read that air traffic at Rafael Hernandez Airport had been delayed by 15 minutes because of the sighting, and now I can't find that to verify it, even though I know I read that somewhere. So was it on some weird 4chan post that I read that, or was it? Yeah, I mean, like, and there's a lot of misinformation, and the more popular a sighting gets, the more that's going to pop
Also,
up,
the SCU
especially
isn't
in today's day.
infallible either.
Oh yeah, 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 and I don't agree with all their
Where were you
findings.
during the drone stuff, Manny? Like, yeah, man, I kind of miss, like, yeah, dude, I kind of miss you, like being a part of that. Like, you weren't a part of the drone stuff at all.
No, there
The
was nothing
drone
to be a part of.
hysteria.
What, mass hysteria? Like, come
Okay.
on, like that's
Yeah,
how I
I
viewed
thought
it.
so.
Yeah, dude, it was
Yeah,
fun. It was great.
there was nothing to latch onto, and honestly, I was fine with that. Like I knew that it was going to do what it did and be a big kerfuffle for a while, and then just here we are onto something else. Now we've got eggs to latch onto. Like it's flavor of the week bullshit, man. And I knew that it was bullshit. There was nothing. Why New Jersey of all the states would you fly over a bunch of drones? Like, when you got people from Jersey Shore are walking the boardwalk on Twitter and they're taking selfie videos and they're like, "Look, there's a UFO!" Like, come on, man! It's just like mass fucking hysteria, and it honestly, it was annoying to me that people are glomming onto this subject that we take seriously, everyone on this panel takes seriously, and they're using it for fucking TikTok views and flavor of the week nonsense. It might as well have been an ice bucket challenge or something else. Like just whatever flavor of the week is. It's annoying. It's annoying. Like I take this subject very seriously. It's not just for someone to get a couple of clicks and views on and followers on their fucking social media page. And I'm offended that everyone and their mother decided in the last month or two that they could just jump in and have an opinion on the subject, even though they have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. Like it's
Oh,
I agree.
yeah.
annoying.
Hey, by the way, Manny, I just took a look at the ResearchGate link that you sent me. Yeah, dude, you got it. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Sky
got to be it.
anomalies.
Well, and there's
Is there-
another one
gotta
that I
be
can
it.
send you too, where they're building those same things, but they're building them with an aerogel casing, and that's what I think it was. Not necessarily an inflatable, but something that had a semi-rigid external shell. Have I found the exact same one?
Well
Not
done, man.
necessarily, but that's what I believe it is. And I can show
Sky,
you those.
Sky anomalies.
Well done.
I
Good
wanted
job.
to ask you, the viewer asked, is there any cases of alien meetings or anything that you really find credible that you've looked into?
No, not a single one.
Not a single
none
one.
of none of them passes even the minimal threshold of evidence. Benny and Barney Hill.
Spoken like a scientist, yes.
Benny and Barney Hill, for example, just read Charlie Weiser's takedown of that case. There's so much
I have.
obvious. Yeah,
It's
so
good, yeah.
yeah, none of them even remotely come close to meeting.
I
what
still have
I
a
would
gray
expect.
basket myself. And back
Guys,
to the
how about Bledsoe?
Oh, but wait one
Like,
second.
you guys
back,
think
back
Bledsoe's
to
going to
the
get taken down this year?
wait one second.
I mean-
I want to hear about that, but back to the drones for 1 second. Manny, my favorite was a content creator we both know, and I don't want to blast him, so we'll tell you off air. He made a video that kind of went viral, giant quadcopter over New Jersey or something like that. And I happen to have his address, so I go, when did this happen? He's all excited about this giant quadcopter. When did this happen? What date and time? He gives me the date and time, forgetting that I know his address, and I look it up on Flight Radar, and there's a police helicopter right over his house where he filmed the giant quadcopter
Oops.
drone. But he still wouldn't accept it. He would not accept it. He would not accept it. And
You guys
so
know that, like, I actually deleted a post during like the peak of hysteria. So I had a post that went viral. Like, when a post goes viral and, like, it's just like the likes are just rolling in. I mean, it was
crazy, yeah,
insane. So
yeah.
it was by far my most popular post ever. Like, it was
Well,
ridiculous,
kudos
the
to
amount
you
of,
for
like,
deleting it. It was
the amount of numbers.
misidentification or what?
But I deleted it because I was claiming that, like, I had seen on Flight Radar where, like, this drone, this MQ-9 had been, or not an MQ-9, it was the Trident, the M4C, had been flying, like, in an area where I had never seen it before, right off of the coast, right there by the Chesapeake Bay.
Nice.
And, like, so I posted, like, a screenshot of, like, the flight tracking, and I was like, hey, this is, like, abnormal. Turns out it wasn't abnormal. Like, that's, like, there's, like, a training base, or excuse me, there's, like, a research base for the Navy right nearby in the Chesapeake Bay. That same drone had, like, flies that same path, like, once a month for the past 5 years. Somebody proved it to me, and I deleted my post. You
Well,
know,
good for
I
you,
wish I
though,
wouldn't
'cause
have deleted the post. So
you could
Hey,
yeah, but I
Steven.
should have kept it up though. Like
you're
Hey,
gonna say
my
Steven.
point is that should have kept the clout.
Steven, how does Bledsoe respond to when you point out the flight tracker stuff? What's his exact
It
response to
wasn't
you?
Bledsoe, it was somebody else.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But I have called Bledsoe out on multiple occasions, and one of the funniest things to me is that there's videos of Bledsoe talking about stuff in his garage, surrounded by remote control airplanes with even with LEDs taped to them, and he's filming these orbs in the sky all the time at night, and nobody
No.
questions him on that.
He is filming through telescopes. That's what he's doing. Is he's taking a telescope, like
And he's also
a
been caught with
telescope, and then
he's also been caught with
he's
laser
filming
pointers and projectors. Yes.
No, but literally, like that's what he's doing. Is he's filming stars through a telescope? Like I have a video on my Twitter, where it's like showing side by
He's
side. That's what he's doing
grifty.
now.
He's so grifty,
Yeah.
and he's a one-stop shop for.
People eat it
There
up.
was
They
there
eat
was a
it up. They love
slide I
it.
shared when I did the Murder in UFO Land story. I shared a slide of this guy, and it's like he saw Bigfoot, he sees angels, he sees demons, ghosts, poltergeists, aliens. It's like, come on, dude, like pick a lane. Like you can't be doing all these things. And it was very grifty, like he was doing these healings. And this guy, Christopher Gray, got so involved with Bledsoe and the lady, and he killed his own father. He stabbed him to death while he was talking about the lady, and he live streamed it. It's really disturbing. These things have real world consequences when these people put this stuff out to some schizo people. It's real. But then his son
Wait, so how
got
about
caught.
Big Homie? You
Who?
can't hate on Big Homie, right?
I don't
Big
even know.
Homie, you know Big Homie?
No, I don't know.
Dude, he's a whistleblower too. Yeah, Big Homie,
You must
brought
be
to the
spending-
community
you're
by
in
Artisan Tony.
spaces.
They're kind of buds.
You're in spaces an awful
Dude,
lot.
Big
and I
Homie's
avoid
legit though.
them.
He's got like he's like a Bigfoot kind of whistleblower, and he's got like UFO whistleblowing too. He's very very credible.
He's
Well, keep him
whistleblowed
in
on
mind.
all the things.
When I'm having a tough week and I need a
On
guest
all
for
of them.
anything, right? You just call that guy. And
No, seriously,
Bledsoe's
Big
sons
Homie
got
was a
caught.
great guest.
He once got caught putting a Lego man. Like I have two kids, 8 and 12. I know what a fucking Lego man looks like. He put a Lego man on a stone in his backyard and put a flashlight behind it and took a picture and said it was a spaceman that appeared to him and his father. And he tweeted it and then he deleted it. Like it's so some of the stuff is so stupid. It's just so stupid and childish,
Mhm.
But the fact that Bledsoe's a big deal is kind of funny, right?
Hey, I've got about
Crypto
30
Alchemist
hours worth of flare footage, guys. I have a ton of parachute flares.
I want that for
ton of
Grift
videos.
Week.
And
Lend it to me for
I'm
Grift Week.
saying let's do it.
Grift Month.
No, forget
Grift
Grift
Month.
Week. Let's start doing it full time, man. We'll have get some of that Corbell money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We'll be living large.
Absolutely. I would
All right.
I would like to have a Cybertruck, right?
Yeah. If people want to see parachute flares, we got to give them what they want, right? Like, how is that wrong? I'm just saying, can't be wrong.
Yeah, it's pretty funny some of the stuff that goes on. And I was going to share this there's a people have been sharing those Corbell. We should at least share one of the Corbell freakout videos, right? Psionic abilities. Come on, man. This newest guy is just right out of Central Casting. Like, oh, there's there's a psionic element to this and a psychic element to this. And, come on, man. I can't believe that this is the top. And remember that these guys like Corbell and Ross Coulthart, these are the top tier people in UFO land. And this is the garbage that they're putting out. This is the garbage that they're putting out.
Has there ever been somebody that has ascended to like not peak ufology, but has got popular based off of like just their genuine merit? Like somebody that's really done great research that has like become popular and like made a little bit of money and or at least lived
I would
off of like
say Stanton
their success.
Friedman.
Stan Friedman?
Because he was
Hynek as well.
Hynek for a time, yeah, but he's kind of fallen off too. But Stan Friedman, here's what I'll say, because I knew him before he died, pretty good. We used to have phone calls. He was on my audio podcast one time, but every once in a while he would just call me up out of nowhere. He was one of those guys that really believed it, and I was always fascinated by him because he was a nuclear physicist. he was a real scientist. He was no joke. He was very educated and he was totally convinced. So that made me think there's got to be something to this. But the longer I got to know him, and the more conversations I had with him, I felt kind of bad for him because I felt like he just totally believed it. And then that informed his investigations more than actual evidence. It was like he would cherry pick. But he was very data based, and he would give you both sides of the story even if it didn't fit his narrative sometimes, but then there was other things that he was totally convinced on, like Betty and Barney Hill star map, and he didn't want to let go of that even when it was debunked. And but he was considered very credible, and he made a good living, and the
Do you ever have moments, Stephen? Like, do you ever have like fleeting moments, like moments not of panic, but kind of like panic, where it's like you kind of think, "Oh shit, maybe this is real."
Yeah,
Like, do you
what
ever
if
have
I'm
moments
wrong?
like
Yeah, what if I'm
occasionally?
wrong? Yeah, what if I'm
Yeah,
wrong? I did when
yeah,
Grush
man, I have
first
them all the
came.
time.
When Grush first came out, I went, "Well, maybe I've been wrong about these guys all being, And for a fleeting moment, I did with Elizondo too. I thought maybe he's going to be different than all these grifters because he really worked at the Pentagon and all these things. But it kind of feels like those kind of moments, they fade away very quickly with time, because the longer these people are here, the easier they are to spot as bullshitters, you know. But I
And
still
there's just
try
no
to
way to
keep an
get rid of
open
them either.
mind. And I have said recently that I've been too harsh to certain people. Like there's one show host in particular that I just shit all over, but there is a few data points that that person did excellent work. But I can't forgive loading, like if you like shit all over a high school gym and then you just clean up one area of it for me, I still don't give you a pass for shitting all over the rest of the gym. So if you put out misinformation 360 days of the year, but 5 days of the year you put out good information, I can't really give you a pass. And I'm going to share this. This is we're going to share one of Corbell's moments here because it's funny. let's
What are
let's
your
sh-
thoughts on real quick on gosh, before I forget, on Stewart, John Stewart? Do you like John Stewart or no?
I here's what I'll say. I like him as a person, but his research is cherry picked too. He's already made up his mind, and he's trying to find data points to support the mind that he's already
Yeah.
made up. And by the way, we're going to be doing a
He's a nice
debate.
enough
It's
guy, by the
funny.
way.
He is
Yeah.
a nice enough guy.
Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I've been being on this really big show on Kick called Kino Casino, and they're kind of like me, but they shit all over everybody on the internet, like internet personalities instead of UFO guys. I somehow became their UFO guy, and I go on every couple of weeks and tell them a UFO story, and so they were fascinated with the debate that we had on my channel, and they're like, "Do you think that guy would come on and do that kind of debate again, but on our show?" I go, "Oh, I don't think he will do it." I talked to him, and he was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it, but let's be friendly. Let's not be assholes to each other." And I agreed to that. So in the
He was
next
going to
week,
moderate a debate with me. Like, so me and Arthur, Arthur Preston, like we
yeah,
were going at
yeah,
it again over 29 Palms, and John Stewart like volunteered. He's like, "Hey guys,
I'll
I'll be the
moderate the
moderator for a
debate.
third
Yeah.
debate."
Well, in the next
And
couple
Arthur
of weeks,
Preston just backed out. He
oh, he
backed out
backed
though.
out.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh man.
Oh, that's kind of a
But
wimpy
I gotta
move.
yeah,
give
dude,
him I gotta
love
give him
John Stewart.
credit for coming on your show, Steven. That took some
Exactly. That took
balls.
balls. And then also, when I talked to him about this Kino Casino thing, I said, those guys are got a huge reach. So if you want to sell that documentary, they'll plug it. They'll help you plug it, and we'll listen. We
When's
can
that
get
happen?
in the next couple of weeks. I'll announce it soon. I got to get the hold up is he's never used Discord, and those guys use Discord calls to do their show. So I got to get him hooked up on Discord first so that we don't have problems the night of the show. But we basically said, like, we can get spicy and be, sort of whatever, but we have to remain friends at the end. And I agreed to that. Like, I'm not there to like destroy the guy, but I think he's full of shit because that whole hoax was created by, I don't know, a child predator that was convicted and did jail time, and another guy that was convicted for bank fraud and robbing all these old people, and another guy that's a fraud, and a fake image analyst. Those are the people that put that thing together. So, but I give him credit because he's willing to engage in debate. And how many of those guys are on the other side of the aisle? Most of them run. They would never debate somebody that's skeptical because they know they would look bad. He's
Steven,
okay. you
Steve,
know.
can I ask you something? You mentioned earlier Corey Good in comparison to Jason Sands. And I was just wondering, in your opinion, does it seem to you like Corey believes his own stuff?
No, I think that the evidence is very clear that Corey Good constructed all of his stories specifically to make money. In fact, there's proof that he mined the Avalon forums, which is kind of like above top secret, before above top secret. And he went through every experience or story on the Avalon forums, and little bits of all the stuff that we know he was reading on the Avalon forums eventually made its way into his stories. So I don't think that he believes any of it. I think that he carefully constructed his narrative to be like um, unable to be impeached too, because he's got an answer for everything. Like, oh, you were in space for 20 years. Why didn't anybody know that you were gone? Well, because they age regressed me and then they put me back right before I left. And, he's got an answer for everything. It was like carefully constructed. And there's also people that worked for him that said that he used to mine science fiction and take notes. Like he would watch Stargate SG-1 and then take notes, and some of those stories
Oh no,
ended up in his stuff.
that's
But
one of my
let's
favorite shows ever.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
like
man, I
that
love
shit
Stargate.
too. I love me some of that shit, right? Let's take a
Yeah.
listen to Corbell crying. This will be funny. And this is
Ah,
fair
is fun.
use. This is transformative work. We're educating the public and shitting on Jeremy because we can.
What?
It was made by Cosmic Judas, but it was made by Corbell. It's my
So thank you,
fake
Mr. Schellenberger,
documents.
for this information. We are all reading it in real time now. 12 pages about this unacknowledged special access program that your government says does not exist.
What went through my head when I heard that?
I didn't get credit for my
About
fake
1,000
document.
things. I was surprised that they thought they could lie without consequence.
Who lied?
Representative Nancy Mace and maybe about 50 congressional staffers, they all lied.
Committee staff asked me to go ahead and I will do it. Enter into the congressional
He's desperate
record
for material.
this 12-page document that Michael Schellenberger
This
brought
is a
today
nothing
that
burger.
describes the Immaculate Constellation government program.
I submitted those 12 pages. Michael Schellenberger did not. It is
Oh no.
immeasurably dangerous that they lied about this.
It was a
And it's
simple
not for the
oversight.
reasons you think. Every single whistleblower that has ever come to me or George Knapp should have absolute guttural fear if they understand what's going on right now.
What's going on? They made a mistake. And listen, just for those uninformed, Michael Schellenberger wrote a big article about this right before the hearing. So it's very easy for people to, mistake that the documents came originally from Schellenberger, when apparently they were first given to Corbell, who let Schellenberger use them, and then he submitted them to the congressional record. But he's getting all butthurt here because he didn't get credit for these worthless fake documents. Well, the document's not fake, but the information in it probably is, and the program never existed.
Congress just lied to the American public.
Oh, he's crying.
Oh, I see
Crying like a
the
bitch.
Ask Schellenberger, he'll tell you.
He gets
Everybody sat
mad.
there as they
He
said,
gets really mad.
Why?
Like he wanted
Ask
his
yourself,
his credit.
Why? It should be trivial.
Do you guys know that
should be
CapCut
trivial.
just got
Fucking
banned
not.
in the U.S.? So if you use CapCut, all your files are gone,
CapCut is banned too?
and all your files are gone. You're
I don't
locked
use
out. Like, your
CapCut.
files are.
Why did CapCut get banned?
Lied. Nancy Mace said.
Hold on, let's
Schellenberger
finish this. It's
gave
one more
her
minute.
An 11-page report on Immaculate Constellation from a whistleblower. Okay. That was a lie, and she knew it. She was told 3 times. You notice how Burchett and Luna kept going after her? They know I submitted the entire
Those are
document.
my
Schellenberger
papers.
never had it, and Schellenberger did admit that standing up after, and I did say to him, they lied, and you know they lied. I submitted the report, you didn't. Is that right? He said, it was confusing. I go, no, it
Schellenberger's
wasn't
like a
confusing.
deer in
They
headlights.
lied, and you didn't correct them.
Cry, bitch, cry. Suffer! Suffer,
That's the
Wilcock,
question
you bitch!
Everybody should be asking on something that appears so trivial. Why would they erase my name? I'm the only person on planet Earth that was given that document.
Oh, so that's it. That's it. He's just crying like a bitch. And yo, isn't the first? There's like an hour of him crying about this shit. That's what his new docu series is about. An hour of him crying because the fake government program and the documents about it, written by an anonymous source that he handed into Congress, he didn't get credit for handing into Congress.
Yeah, it shows not only the ego, but also just shows
Narcissism.
the proneness to immediate conspiratorial thinking for obvious things that could be explained by a simple fluke, a simple mistake. Like it's such a obvious thing. Okay,
Absolutely.
confusion, especially in a big crowded room like that. But immediately his mind goes to what? Lying. Why? Some nefarious motive behind the scenes, and you should all be terrified. Like that's the kind of mentality that this whole UFO culture just instills in people, and you can see it on display right there. In
Oh
addition to his
yeah.
massive ego.
Oh
And that's
yeah.
also the world he lives in, though. If you look at the Tubi video where he's talking about the big lie that they're going to tell people,
Oh yeah.
it's the
They're going to
same
tell us
exact
that there's a
mentality.
giant alien. What is it? They're going to tell us that there's a giant alien
Yeah,
spaceship
there's
on
a
the way to
super star
Earth.
destroyer on its way to Earth. Like
But meanwhile, people like Elizondo and that who's the religious studies lady that's totally into UFO cult now? She's a professor. She's telling people the same thing that, oh yeah, I've heard there's a giant alien spaceship on its way to
yeah, they
Earth.
all heard it from the same people, and they all tell the rumor back and forth in that big circle jerk, and it just goes in a circle, and it's a telephone game. It's ridiculous, man. It's absolutely ridiculous. By the way, 2027, folks, kiss your butts goodbye. It's all over. Big alien ship's coming, but that's
Yeah,
a
and
lie according to Corbell.
John
It's
Ramirez
reality
too.
according
Yeah.
to fucking Hal Puthoff and Lou Elizondo and Eric Davis, and it's all reality. So like, whatever.
Oh, just to make a note, we've got 8 of 15 towards the goal, so we need a bunch more, 12 more to hit the goal. But it's okay. My voice is dying. For once, I don't care if we hit the goal and get to overtime. We want to thank Phantomas Fanto. Do you think Tedesco brothers are onto something with their Long Island research? At least they are in the field and are doing something, in my opinion. Yeah, at least they're trying, but I don't think that what they have is very credible. But thank you. Another one towards the goal. So how do we wrap things up here? I try to find an off ramp, like what's. I'd like to say like what's going to happen next. I think it's going to be rinse and repeat, right? Everybody will forget about this big overblown, over sensationalized nothing burger, and in a month or two they'll all be back with another one. Let's go around. Grider first. What's coming up? Grider. Oh, there
Probably
you go.
more. Probably more BS. Just nonstop, just over and over again. It's going to happen all year. I think this is like the new standard in our society. Is just nonstop. It's about output of like stimuli now. Yeah, you got guys like Ashton. That's the formula, and they started to kind of like ramp it up this past, like last year, where it's like it got kind of progressively worse with the drone sightings. Right, it started, with the drone sightings out in California, that turned out to be like Hawaii drone shows, right? You guys remember that during that at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
summer. Then it just ramped up and ramped up, and overseas, then over here, and to like a fever pitch. I think that's the new standard. Is like that's the new thing. Whether it's induced like intentionally by like the powers that be, if you want to get conspiratorial, or if it's just us as a society getting kind of stir crazy. I don't know, but I think that's the new norm. Is like constant panic, manufactured panic. So I think that there's no stopping this. I think it's just going to keep ramping up, and I yeah, you know, there's no debunking it. There's no getting people to calm down. It's going to get worse, So I almost want to start believing it just to like join in on the fun, to be honest.
Fever pitch. I agree with you. And sky anomalies. You really do look at this from a psychological perspective, right? Like, what do you think of the psychology of that mass hysteria of the drone event, and what do you see going forward? Is this ever going to end, or if we just in one big like never-ending cycle of sensational nothing burgers?
Yeah, I mean that was a textbook example of what mass hysteria looks like in real time, as opposed to reading it in a textbook. This flap will end, but historically, mass hysteria kind of comes around every couple of decades or so, even several times per decade, and it just always looks different according to the norms and whatever the belief system is of that culture. Thankfully, this stuff is very insulated to this UFO community. No one in the real world cares about this stuff.
Yeah, this was only on News Nation.
Right.
World-changing information only on News Nation. Nobody
Right.
else covered it.
Right.
Nobody
So
cared.
if you only spend time around UFO folks, you might get the mistaken impression that the world is going to shit, everyone is getting panicked, but no, it's just this community. The outside world is not paying attention to this, nor should they. So thankfully, the outside world is, paying attention to things that hopefully matter, because this certainly doesn't. This is just, mass hysteria in one little subculture of one little, pseudoscientific cult that unfortunately sucks a lot of people in, but not enough to gain actual, critical mass.
Yeah, I can't say I disagree with you. And Manny, we've already kind of asked you, but do you think that these guys will ever have any consequences? Or, and I'm always curious, like, why does this keep working? Especially like Corbell. How many fake bullshit stories does he get before people stop paying attention? It seems like infinite. It seems like he could just keep doing this. So I almost don't blame him. Like he's collected millions of dollars off of stupid people with fake as shit, right?
Yeah, and I don't think there's going to be any end until people decide to end it. About the point in time that he puts a video up and nobody clicks on it, views it, watches it, talks about it, goes and downloads it, whatever, and the money dries up or the well dries up, then it'll end. But as long as there are people out there in the, cult, so to speak, that are going to go and consume this grift day in and day out, he's going to continue to do it. He has no motivation to stop, and neither do any of them. Neither does George Knapp. Neither does Gary Nolan. Neither does Lou Elizondo. They're only getting more and more invigorated and getting more and more emboldened. I mean, we just saw, like we talked earlier about Elizondo being named the UAP czar, and one of the things that Jeremy Corbell leaked when he's throwing his tantrum was that there was supposed to be an after party after that congressional hearing where Schellenberger got the document and Mace read it in. And that after party was hosted by the UAP Disclosure Fund, which we all know how shady that fucking group is. So now we see what they're doing on the sidelines is they're taking money. They're going to DC behind closed doors. They're throwing these dinner parties, engagements, after parties, and they're wooing select impressionable Congress people. And if they weren't manipulating Congress and getting taxpayer dollars and laws changed and altered and things like that, I wouldn't care. I'd just say, this is just buyer beware. It's caveat emptor, like buyer beware.
You're right.
But when they start influencing Congress, like because you get like 3 or 4 like impressionable, ignorant, just let's say it, just like dim-witted Congress people that are susceptible to this, that will believe any conspiracy theory out there. Why not throw a UFO one at them and get a few bucks for your UAP Disclosure Fund or for your Enigma Labs or for your, whatever.
Everybody's got a
550
UFO company or
They all
organization.
do.
They all do.
Every single
Yeah.
one of them does. They all. I mean, look at Lou Elizondo. How many LLCs has he set up over the years? Like a half
I
dozen.
think it's up to 8, isn't it? Or
Trying to
6.
get bucks. Like it's all. And anyone who thinks it's not about money, that right there tells you that the proof is in the pudding. It's all about dollars. It's not about altruism. It's not about warning humanity that they're going to be the saviors of humanity. It's not about any of that. It's about dollar bills, yo, and that's it. So stop giving them your dollars and they'll go away. But until then, they won't. As long as
I don't think they're ever going. I don't think they're ever going.
I just want to say my integrity's for sale. I'm putting my integrity for sale. So if anybody wants, hit me up in DMs.
Grider, I'm not kidding. I would like to formally ask for the help of all 3 of you. Sky Anomalies, you know a lot about psychology, so I'd like to talk to you in preparation for my Grift month. And Grider and Manny, Area 503, you guys have been at this long enough that you can help me fake some really convincing, great shit. And we'll cut you in on the money. We got to do Grift month because it would be what a tremendous social experiment for us to just put out fake shit for a full-on month, like as much as we can, and see what happens. And then my wife is an accountant, so I promise the audience and everybody else we're going to keep track of every penny that I make on Grift month. And then we're going to track like where everything goes, who runs with our fake shit. We're going to do Grift month, and I could use your help. and then
When's this going to be so I can go on and start making some sock accounts and start kind of like building them up?
I wanted to say we would do it in April, but I'm not sure I'm going to have enough time to get all my fake videos together.
April.
Yeah, so if not April, sometime by the end of summer at the latest, we'll do maybe we'll do the month of July or the month of August if we can't get it together. But I want to have like 100 or more fake videos, and I mean,
can we have like a contest?
Yeah,
see who can like
we'll see who
grift
gets the
hardest.
most.
Like,
who gets the most views? Yeah.
How are we going to handle this? Like, respond. Like, how are we going to have this not bite us in our ass? You know,
okay.
at the end when we come clean.
This is what I've decided. I'm going to keep a spreadsheet of every dollar we make off of all the fakery, fraudery, and bullshittery, and then at the end of the month-long experiment, we'll come clean and say this is how much money we made, and then I'm going to give the money to charity. But I'm going to give it to certain charities like Expanding Frontiers Research, or maybe we'll give some money to government transparency organizations or FOIA organizations.
SciCop.
Yes, it's good 501c3 charities, and then nobody can blame us.
Video poker machines.
Yeah,
casino,
or maybe we'll have a strip. We'll have a night at a strip club, like a party. At the end of this.
Hey, Steven, if you really want to piss them off, give it to the Guerrilla Skeptics.
Oh, that's great. No, we'll put them on the list. So far on the list, I have Expanding Frontiers Research, because every once in a while when I have some extra money, I give them $50 or whatever, because I think they do great work in government transparency. And they do stuff that I wish I had time to do, like force the government to release documents they don't want to release. They go to court and shit. Like, they don't fuck around, So we'll make a list, and yes, Guerrilla Skeptics will be on there. And maybe we'll give some money to Mick West and Expanding Frontiers Research. We'll make a list of the people that will benefit from our grift so that nobody can really blame us. So let's say we make $10,000. It'll be funny. And then we'll give all the money to good charities that are kind of, maybe we'll give some to the Skeptical Inquirer or whatever, like skeptic organizations, government transparency, anybody that is kind of anti-woo or anti-bullshit will spread the wealth, except for the strip club night. We got to have a strip club night, like to just wind down after grifting all month. Grifting is hard work, man. And I think we'll do good because, grifters are lazy. And I'm not lazy, and none of you guys are. So we'll do better than the real grifters. It's going to be fabulous. I can't wait. But so far, I've only made a couple of videos that look convincingly good enough that I would want to put them out. They look really good, and they're difficult to debunk. I mean, we can make a bunch of trash too and just see what happens, because you see some of the stuff out there, it's garbage.
Yeah, all you need to do is take a video of an out-of-focus Venus or a star or something. Like nowadays, that's what passes for UFOs.
Absolutely.
Film an airplane at night, and that's good enough.
Yeah, I mean, if in New Jersey people are taking videos of literal fucking airplanes and calling them UAP, I mean,
and going viral.
Craft Beer will be out there debunking his own creations. Like, he'll be out there creating videos and then debunking himself, patting himself on the back. Being
we can do stuff like that.
Like
he can make some fake videos, and so can you, Grider, and then I'll have you come here to do the analysis of the fake video with me. But we got to, pretend that we can't debunk it.
If we okay, no. All right, so
and then at the end of the experiment, we're going to show how each video was made. We're going to explain, like, this one's Pepper's Ghost, this one's a laser pointer on a black wall of fake stars, this one's Saturn through a telescope, this one's model on a green screen. Whatever we do,
I've got the
videos.
I've got it. Like, I have a great formula down. I think I'm gonna. Yeah.
All right, we'll talk.
I think I'm going to win this contest.
Don't give it away, and yeah, we'll do some kind of prizes for best grifter that helps me with Grift Month, and I'm in there too. So if mine do better,
like a T-shirt or like a hat or like a trophy to get like a Grift trophy.
No, we're gonna
with like a UFO or something.
I know a guy who makes trophies. I could get trophies made. Best grifter.
I'll pitch in for it. Yeah,
we'll do first, second, and third, right? by view counts, by total view counts.
Hell yeah,
yeah. All right. Well, listen, I want to thank each of you guys. My voice is starting to leave me, and I want to thank you especially. I didn't want to let this go, and I'm feeling terrible, and my voice is leaving me. So it was great to have you guys to fill the
I couldn't tell a difference
tonight. Oh, really? Well, thank you. I guess
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
here
man, you
hopped
sounded
up.
great.
I've been sucking down cough syrup and cough drops and cold medicine the whole
I have
time.
to say that I think the night's MVP goes to Manny. I think Manny came through by far the
By
MVP of
far, yeah,
tonight.
with the debunk,
Right?
20
Yeah.
minutes.
I
Forget
mean,
about
just
24
well done,
hours.
Manny. Yeah, well done, dude. You totally screwed up all my material that I had coming into the, I mean, I'm saying you like man, whoo. But
He's
well done, dude.
So I
Well
do want to
done.
ask
Like really
Manny.
well done.
Can I ask Manny? So the balloon thing that you presented, obviously that's one possible explanation. It's not, it's not
it's not
exhaustive.
100%
Yeah.
sure.
What percentage of what's your kind of degree of confidence that that's the right target? Do you think for what's on the video?
I'd say
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's up to whoever to determine that for themselves. I mean, I feel like I'm pretty confident in it, more so than any other possible explanation before NHI for sure. There's nothing to show. There's like zero evidence that there's anything extraordinary there that's not man-made. But yeah, I don't know. 40, 50%. I would at least go half and half. And if it's not something like that I come up with, it's probably something extremely similar to the object that I've described. So.
Okay,
Yeah, I think you did a
that's fair
great
enough.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah, great job, Manny. And thanks to all our panel members tonight. We had a great one. Sometimes I hate these panels, but those are usually the open ones because we get a lot of strange. It's better to have a controlled panel. So thank you guys for all coming and helping me out while my voice is leaving me. You guys
thank
have
you,
a
Stephen.
great night. I'm going
Thank
to
you for
throw you all
having
out and
us.
do a quick wrap up, and I'll be in touch with each of you. I'd like to have Sky Anomalies and I'd like to have all you guys on separately as single
You got to
guests.
have Sky on though. Yeah, you
Yeah,
got to have Sky
absolutely.
on.
Did a great job.
Have
I
a
like. We want
mono
to.
e mono.
I want to have him back on and explore just the psychological side of the group dynamics and the group think and all of that stuff. So I would throw you all guys all out of here and do a quick wrap up.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Sky Anomalies. Thank you,
Peace out,
Grider,
guys.
and thank you, Manny, Area 503. Thank you for your help. All right, friends, we made it through. I'm glad that I powered through. I I really feel terrible, and every once in a while, I get something that my kids had, and my wife just calls it man flu. The kids have it, and they seem to be sniffly, but okay. We keep them home, whatever the doctor tells us. Apparently, it's something viral, though, according to my son's doctor. I haven't been to the doctor yet, but I kind of feel like it's strep throat because I'm literally keep losing my voice. We'll take a moment to thank another kind and generous benefactor. The audience is getting smaller, in my opinion, says, "Don't touch me, I'm crazy." Grush was the high watermark. Yeah. And people, people are experiencing fatigue from this because it's more and more of the same. Like, okay, here's another whistleblower that doesn't have any evidence. And for those that are keeping track, we're at 9 of 15 for the goal. So unless we get 6 more in the next few minutes, we're not going to make the goal. But it's okay because I really am not feeling great at all about doing additional time. I'm happy enough to have made it through. And really, if you count all those kind and generous memberships, by the way, be sure that you hit the subscribe button because tonight, a kind and generous benefactor, Mike Larry, MVP of gifting free memberships, gifted, I don't know, was it 30 or 40 free memberships? So 30 or 40 people got a free membership to our channel for the month just for being in the live chat and being a subscriber. But be sure to smash that subscribe button because if you're in the live chat and you're not a subscriber of our channel, when somebody gives those memberships, they get distributed somehow, random number generator, to people in the live chat. But you must be a subscriber to get those free memberships. So thanks to Mike Larry, I consider that's more than the goal that I wanted to hit financially anyway. So technically, maybe we didn't get it. And then also, I owe for our last live show, I owe the overtime, but it was just a little thing, a little extra I was going to throw in, and that is Corey Good drama. For those unaware, Corey Good has been mired in legal battles for years. Most of them from his own. He's the one that sued everybody, even though he had the Light Warrior Legal Fund. But it's interesting what has happened now is that his shady ass lawyer, who was a Kool-Aid drinking member of his cult, has been she has been accused of some heinous things. And now there is, well, I have to be very careful because she's a lawyer. She's been allegedly accused of some things. And there's some court documents, and I'm going to share my screen here. There is some court documents in which, let me share my screen real fast. One second. And we want to thank Light Warrior. The allegations against Llaneros and her husband are no joke. If the plaintiff can prove them, she could lose her license to practice law and could even be criminally indicted. Oh, look at this. So, this is wonderful. It couldn't happen to a nicer lawyer, in my opinion. And for those unaware, this woman was a Kool-Aid drinking cult member, in my opinion, of Corey Good's cult. And she, in my opinion, she legally terrorized innocent people that were just critics of Corey Goods on the internet for years and years, accusing them of all kinds of things, helping Corey Goods sue them. Basically lawfare, in my opinion. And so apparently she has been accused of, her husband has been accused of some things, and somebody has filed a temporary restraining order application against her husband and her, Valerie Llaneros Huesqueros, or whatever her new surname is. The court finds that Cars for Kids has shown a probable right to relief sought in the verified petition and application. Apparently, her husband was affiliated with that organization and took some data from them, so they've sought a restraining order. And according to Light Warrior, who is kind of a legal analyst, but I don't listen. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a law enforcement officer, an officer of the court. So I'm relying on. We're just sharing what's on Twitter. So don't sue me. According to Light Warrior, who found these court documents and the restraining order against Corey Good's one-time lawyer, I think still-time lawyer, the allegations against Llaneros and her husband are no joke. If the plaintiff can prove them, she could lose her license to practice law and could even be criminally indicted. This is the former client who secured. This is a former client who secured a temporary restraining order against her. Here are some excerpts. And Light Warrior goes on to say, this is a restraining order. Now both Valerie Llaneros, Corey Good's lawyer, and Corey Good are distinguished in Dallas County as having both had orders of protection filed against them. Valerie and her husband allegedly illegally accessed and downloaded documents from America Card Cars for Kids, her former client. So that was the bonus that I missed for our bonus. We hit our goal, and I was supposed to do this in my last show, and I sincerely apologize. But you can go check out our last show and fast forward all the way to the end, and my voice is almost completely gone. And that's what I was focusing on. Like, oh my God, I've never done a show where my voice was that gone by the end of the show. So I was just focused on like, I have almost no voice left. Just finish up the show. And I had forgotten that we had hit the goal. And the overtime goal was to share with you this Corey Good drama. Couldn't happen to a nicer lady. Unism says Cars for Kids must be a scam meant to impersonate actual, probably reasonable charity Cars for Kids. Yeah, I don't know. So that's allegedly. I don't know anything about the plaintiff that is seeking the restraining order, but I will be calling them and asking them if I can interview them about this temporary restraining order and about what happened with this situation, because I think it's relevant. So this was the little bit of bonus that I had for hitting our goal. And I want to thank everybody for helping us hit our goal for the last show. To be honest, my voice isn't quite as bad as the end of the last show, but it still feels like it's leaving me. I didn't want to miss tonight, right? Think, everybody's all in an uproar about these latest whistleblower revelations that I knew would be a nothing burger. So it is what it is. I wanted to be here, and I thank my panel member guests. I knew I couldn't do a 2-hour, 2.5 hour show with just my voice talking for 2.5 hours. So we called in the cavalry, and boy, I had a great time tonight, which reminds me that these panel shows are good if they're pre-planned and we have good guests, right? Here's Scott Starbird with a kind and generous $5, says, a little something towards the goal. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support, but we're still 5 away from the goal. But I still considering the huge generosity and support of Mike Larry, there's 30 memberships. What is that, $150? So we did great tonight as far as financial support, and I really, truly appreciate it. It really does help us to stay not grifting, even though we're going to grift for Grift Month, but that's a pre-planned scam month. We're going to scam everybody for a month, but then we're going to come clean and be honest about what happened and how we did it. I want to educate people about how easy it is to fool people on the internet with fake ass videos. And I think this would be a tremendous social experiment, and it'll help us to educate people. We want to be a public benefit here. And it's funny. Me being so skeptical and being so, I hate to say it, but morally self-righteous about these goddamn grifters, me becoming a grifter for a full-on month, it's funny. It is funny. So I don't know what's going to happen, but according to Light Warrior, because of this temporary restraining order and this situation, Corey Good's lawyer might not be able to continue being his lawyer. I don't really understand why. I'm going to have to get a lawyer to explain that to me, and I'll get back to you guys. I don't want to misspeak because I don't want to get sued by Corey Good's Kool-Aid drinking cult member lawyer. And that's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. Yeah. Boy. So we'll take some comments and questions. Sorry about that. I popped the wrong one off. We'll take some comments and questions from the live chat before we wrap things up here. And boy, what can I say to wrap things up? Another nothing burger. Jesse Michels. Jesse Michels is the same scumbag who brought us Dave Grush's evidence-free story. Now he brings us this Green Beret's evidence-free story. Jesse Michels is as credible as a crackhead. And, I always hate to be too harsh because people get nasty with me and they say, well, he's got tons more subscribers than you and he's so much more successful. You're just jealous. I'm never jealous of somebody who got somewhere by lying to people and scamming the public with fake shit. I'm not jealous of that. Who I may be jealous of? Somebody like Michael Shermer. Like, look at his views, right? And he got there by being skeptical and by educating people, or maybe the skeptoid guy. I'm a little jealous of him when I see his numbers, right? I'm not jealous of a grifter who got great numbers by grifting. It doesn't impress me. You got there by doing the lie by omission and over sensationalizing, clickbaiting, lying to people, selling stories are fake just to get ahead. Same for Sean Ryan. I still do I can't lie though, I still do like Joe Rogan, even though he platforms a lot of these grifters. I just think he doesn't know better. And if it's not a UFO guy on Joe Rogan, I really enjoy the Joe Rogan show. Sean Ryan's show, on the other hand, I think is garbage. Pretty much no matter who he has on there, I don't really care to listen. So I'm hesitant to be too harsh to somebody like Jesse Michels, but I think Jesse Michels is a wannabe Sean Ryan grifter. He's just trying to get numbers. He doesn't care what he has to sell as long as he gets the numbers. And part of me thinks maybe I should respect that, because if it's just about making money, hey, you do what you got to do. But if doing what you got to do includes lying to people on a daily basis, I think you're a scumbag. And as far as Jeremy Corbell's been a grifting scumbag since he hit the scene. I knew Jeremy Corbell before anybody even knew who he was. Long before the Bob Lazar film. I didn't know him personally, but I had spoken to him in messages a few times, and we had friends in common and whatever. But Jeremy Corbell's entire life's work in UFOs has been one big circle jerk of nothingness. right? So I can't respect him. Like, congratulations on the $1 million properties you bought and the Cybertruck, but you got there by lying to people like a scumbag. You know, like, you don't get points for that with me, right? So, and Ross Coulthart, of course, you know, I honestly feel bad for Ross Coulthart because he's got a wife and children and things, and like, what a scumbag of existence it's got to be. Like, what do you tell your kids? Like, oh, daddy just lies to people and makes up fake shit on the internet to make all this money that we enjoy. Like, that's not something you or your family should be proud of. You should be you know, what happens when your children get a little older and they realize that daddy's a grifter on the internet and they're ashamed of you? And you know, I'm just speaking from my own heart, but like, if he was my father, I would be ashamed of him. I would be like, Dad, you can't keep scamming people on the internet like this. That's bullshit, you know. But it is what it is. So as far as going forward, you know, as the UFO flying saucer turns, this is just going to keep going. It's just going to keep going. But maybe it's better for us if it does keep going, because there will always be smart people that want to take the second red pill. And tonight we try to bring you that second red pill. It's the best analogy I could think of. You think that these so-called truth seekers are out there seeking the truth, but they're scumbags that are literally lying to you for cash. So you got to take the second red pill, come to truth seekers, and here we will peel back the layers of deception that are used to create these fantastic, over sensationalized clickbait garbage stories that have no basis in reality 99% of the time. But to me, it's still interesting to peel back the layers of deception, to see how they're able to use stagecraft and deception and the lie by omission in order to craft these stories that do have a societal impact. Let's be clear. You know, there's a reason they get millions of views. So some of them are very good at crafting very deceptively edited, deceptively promoted, as we saw today. Ross Coulthart completely deceptively promoted this, pretending that his so-called whistleblower had a video of his alien crash retrieval. It was from a completely different event, a different source. It just matched the story that that guy was telling. So conflation of all these different things, and we put it together, it's a big bullshit. It's like putting a bunch of different, you know, take 5 people, make them all take a shit in a bucket, put it in a blender. That's Ross Coulthart, and that's the work and legacy of Ross Coulthart, a garbage peddling shit peddler. And it is what it is, but this is where we find ourselves. So what can we say, friends? We've done our due diligence. I am going to go try and not speak for the next day, maybe 2. I probably will not be back until Tuesday, given, you know, or maybe 3. Yeah. So, well, I don't know. Follow me on Twitter. It's, or X. I'll be saying Twitter for the rest of my life. Follow me on X, or formerly Twitter, at Stephen Canby. And we always announce our shows there before we do a show. And if you're listening in audio podcast land, we love and appreciate you, but please do become a part of the show. Go on over to YouTube, hit that magnifying glass, the little search tool, put Truth Seekers, one word, in the search bar. You'll see a strange guy with sunglasses pop up. That would be me. Go to the channel, smash the subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and you too will know when we're doing a live show. Don't just listen to the show. Don't just watch the show. Come in our live chat and be a part of it. You are most welcome. We want to take a moment to thank you, kind and generous benefactors, you Patreon supporters, you YouTube channel members, super chatter, super sticker, super thanks, you Patreon supporters, and you people buying me a coffee. If you'd like to help our show, all the instructions for how to do that are in the description of this video or podcast. I will be taking probably a day or 2 off because I really need to rest my throat, try to get over. I'm going to try to, every once in a while when I get sick like this, I try to sleep it off. Just sleep as much as possible and then take a nap when you wake up, and a couple hours later. Just try to sleep as much as possible. Best thing for you. My wife has kindly gotten me a bunch of cough syrup and cough medicine and cold pills and, you know, cough drops and chicken soup and vitamin C, and we'll see. Hopefully this too shall pass. But I'm glad that we worked our way through it. I didn't want to miss today. This was just too big of a hype fest and a crashing down nothing burger to miss, right? So I really didn't want to miss it. And who would want to miss it, right? 1 second. So also be sure to follow us, or be sure to visit our website. It's truthseekershow.com, where you can get all the latest episodes, whether that's the audio version of our show or if you want the video version of the show. It's all at truthseekershow.com. So we've done our due diligence. We want to also thank our kind and generous guests and panel members tonight. So that's all I got for you, friends. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambian. Good night, and God bless all of you.
Truth seekers, exposing the truth. Truth seekers, coming for you. Truth seekers, exposing the lies. Truth seekers, open your eyes. They lie again. Have you had your fill? Let go of lies. Take your second red pill. I know you've had your fill. It's time to take your second red pill. I know you've had your fill. It's time to take your second red pill. I know you've had your fill. It's time to take your second red pill. Truth seekers, exposing the truth. Truth seekers, coming for you. Truth seekers, exposing the lies. Truth seekers, open your eyes. It's time to take your second red pill. I know you've had your fill. It's time to take your second red pill. Truth seekers, exposing the truth. Truth seekers, coming for you. Truth seekers, exposing the lies. Truth seekers, open your eyes.